What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2VN. Chapter 26 Fight, on the connection of fruit power and Zanpakuto Shikai. Advertise here. According to common sense, with Yuta's strength, it is still impossible to release a high-ranked Kido-like splitting void without chanting. This is possible thanks to the assistance of her Zanpakuto, Diva. She can replace the chant part with her unique singing voice before Yuta casts Kido. In this way, let Yuta achieve the effect of abandoning chanting and instantly casting Kido, and the power of Kido released is also the effect of fully chanting. Of course, there is an upper limit to this effect. Only works on Kido levels that Yuta can master. Like open black lens bracket Hodoji Juju 5 swirling dragons of destruction close black lens bracket, a powerful Kido that she can't master by herself, even with the help of Diva, she can't display it. The battle is still going on, with open black lens bracket splitting void close black lens bracket casting. A huge transparent defensive wall stands between Uda and Ace, blocking all the flames of Ace. It's like the space is cut off here. Still from that half of the flames, this place has not been affected in the slightest. Oh. Seeing this, the spectators in the stands gave out enthusiastic cheers, which came like waves. Ace looked through the flames and looked at Uda on the opposite side. She is like a queen that everyone is looking forward to, wearing a crown amid the cheers, and even the lance in her hand seems to have become her scepter. At this moment, Ace's fighting spirit reached its peak. In that case, let me see how you can block this move. Firefly Fire Dharma. I saw him open his hands, creating a lot of firefly green fireballs, floating towards Yuta like fireflies. The speed can't be said to be slow, but for their level of combat, it's really a joke. Have you run out of other means? Yuta looked at the lingering small fireballs, and didn't pay attention to them at all. A Shunpo appeared in front of Ace, spearing straight out. While Ace, who was elementalized in advance, escaped the blow, he also released a large number of fireballs, which attached to Yuta's body during the attack. The moment the fireball came into contact with her, it exploded, and Yuta's whole body burned up. Miss Marine, don't underestimate people. Perhaps it was a successful move, and the anger in Ace's heart also dissipated a little. His tone of voice was not as serious as before. He knew that he still needed two people to find Teach's whereabouts, so he just wanted to vent his anger. Disciplining Teach is the most important thing for him right now. You can't waste time here with a girl with weird abilities, let alone a Vice Admiral over there. Lesson is over. In the flames, Yuta flicked the gun and extinguished the flames around him. Looking at Ace coldly. What are you talking about? Pirates, are you the one who underestimates people? Hearing this, Ace pressed the cowboy hat on his head. Oh, what a hassle. As he spoke, he opened his posture, and put the index and middle fingers of both hands together in a pistol pose. Musket. As his fingers pointed, the thumb-sized fireballs shot rapidly, which was really like a musket, as its name suggests. Although Yuta was not afraid, he didn't want to be beaten for nothing, so he used Shunpo to dodge one after another. In the process Ace took his chances. Yang Yan. Missing a hit, the distance between the two has been pulled very close. Hado's 31 red cannon. The singer chanted behind him, Yuta raised his hand and hit the red cannon, and the red flame exploded in front of Ace. This blow did not cause any damage to the Ace of the Mera Mera fruit ability user. But it does not hinder the shock it received. What devil fruit are you eating? From the spear and armor at the beginning, to the phantom that resembled his mother later, the chant theater under his feet also has a strange method called Bakudo. Now there is another one named Hado, who can also use the fire ability. Ace really can't think of any devil fruit that can have so many abilities at the same time. Is it really the same as he thought before? Is all this just an illusion created by that Vice Admiral Aizen? There's so much nonsense. Don't you want to know about Blackbeard? If you want to, get serious. Yuta's long spear pierced continuously, and every blow was merciless. There is no mercy at all because the other party is Luffy's sworn brother. Ace dodged one after another and was suppressed by him for a while. The two of you come and go, the fight is very intense. The cheers of the spectators in the stands became louder as they fought. Oh. Watching the two fighting on the field, Aizen stared at Ace with great interest. It was he who used Hogyoku to give Yuta Shinigami the ability. Before that, Yuta was already a Yuta fruit. Knowing the ability of Yuta Shikai, he also came to a conclusion after learning about Yuta Shikai's ability. After eating devil fruit, the fruit ability becomes part of the human being. The Zanpakuto ability transformed into Shinigami again will also have a certain relationship with the original fruit ability. If you convert Ace into Shinigami, with a high probability, his Zanpakuto may be the one owned by Captain Yamamoto. Ryujin Jaka. Chapter 27 Yandi vs Senju Joushin Taipao. Advertise here. Then time passed. The battle between Yuta and Ace has also entered a fierce stage. The Anthem Theater also became dilapidated because of the battle between the two. Especially the flame of Mera Mera fruit not only has a destructive effect, but also raises the temperature here a lot. At this moment, Ace kept panting heavily, sweat dripping from his body. It was evaporated before landing. There were countless wounds, large and small, all of which were stab wounds. On the other hand, Uda on the opposite side had a slight damage to his armor, but his breath was stable, and he didn't even break a drop of sweat. What's going on? Is her physical strength so good? Or is it some unknown strange ability? Ace looked at Uda solemnly. We can't continue, or we will really lose. Just when he was anxiously thinking about countermeasures, the cheers coming from his ears caught his attention. If this is due to the woman's ability, then there is no reason to waste energy to maintain such a large audience. Is it really just hope that someone can see her heroic figure in battle and enjoy the attention? Ace shook his head, dismissing the thought. No, at her level of strength, it is impossible to be distracted by simply satisfying personal preferences. Without giving a reason, unless her strength far exceeds her, she didn't take him seriously from the beginning to the end. But the battle has not seen her showing overwhelming strength. Then, there is only one possibility left. Hee. Did you finally find out? Seeing Ace scanning the surrounding stands, Uda knew that he had seen the clue. But she wouldn't be so stupid as to reveal her abilities. Just chuckled and gave Ace an accurate answer. I've always heard that players competing at home tend to have an advantage. I don't know if you agree with this point of view. But it doesn't matter if you don't agree, it just so happens that this is my home court. Try it, and then you'll know. With graceful steps, Uda approached, raised his lance and pointed at Ace. Go. One order. The spectators, who were originally shouting one after another in the stands, stood up at the same moment, with clean movements in unison. In the stands of tens of thousands of people, even a person like Ace, who has been struggling in New World, can't help feeling horrified at such a scene. Before he could react, countless figures attacked him. Flame ring, fire pillar. Under the high-speed rotation, the pillar of fire rose into the sky. Ace jumped into the air followed by Yang Yan. Although his attack can cause a large number of casualties every time, those faceless spectators are really too many. Even if they are broken up, they will reappear in the stands. It is simply impossible to finish. Is this the strength of Luffy's big brother? It seems that it is nothing more than that. Looking at Ace, who was struggling to deal with it, Uda sighed from a distance. Luffy. This woman knows Luffy. Also know that he is Luffy's big brother. By the way, when I was in Alabasta last time, I told Smoker that Luffy is my younger brother. Is Marine going to shoot Luffy? At this moment, the flames on Ace's body were burning fiercely, and several circles of huge spiral flames were released from the feet centered on him. In an instant, the surrounding audience was cleared. I haven't lost yet, beat me first and then talk. With one hand on his knees, he stood up with difficulty. The sea of flames under his feet continued to gather and compress towards his hands. Until a fireball as blazing as the sun was lifted above the head. Under the strong high temperature, letting the audience approach is nothing but moths to the flame, and they are burned to ashes before they reach them. Is this trying to compete with me? Uda looked at the huge fireball solemnly, feeling the destructive power inside. That being the case, come on. Let me see what's special about you. Behind him, the singer began to chant, and Uda pointed a gun at Ace, and she also chanted along with her. The edge of Senju, the venerable hand that cannot touch the darkness. Follow my instructions, light bullets, 8 bodies, big wheels, gray turrets. On the tip of the pure gold lance, the terrifying Reiatsu gathers a point and emits a blue light. This is Hado, whose number is as high as 91, and it is also the highest number level that Uda can grasp at present. With the blessing of the singer, Uda sang it herself. This double superposition also makes the power of this blow far beyond ordinary, and it has been greatly strengthened like never before. Uda and Ace. The aura of the two has reached its peak, and the strongest blows that each condensed have also locked on each other. They were sisters Luffy, but they had such a fierce battle when they first met. Among them, Ace does not know Uda's identity. Interesting. I don't know that when the summit war comes, Uda, Ace, and Luffy will gather together. Redhead, Whitebeard, and Garp are here. What will it be like? Under Aizen's expectant eyes, the two on the field launched a final duel. 91 of Hado Senju Yantian Duan Pao. Great Flame Precept, Emperor Yan. Chapter 28. Worshipper Yurid. Advertise here. The smoke and dust dispersed, and the lance in Uda's hand and the armor on his body were already in tatters. Reiatsu's extreme consumption also made her feel unprecedentedly deprived. When she was in Marine before, in order to hide her strength, she never had the opportunity to use her ability like this. This catharsis also gave her a new understanding of her own strength. Seeing Ace, who was already unconscious not far away, Uda lifted Shikai. The Som Cathedral then dissipated, and Diva returned to her sealed state. 3 figures appeared in the middle of the street. It shocked the civilians who thought it was over and returned. Just when they were about to escape again, Aizen's voice sounded, as gentle and windy as ever. Don't worry everyone, the danger is over. His voice seemed to have magical powers, calming the fearful crowd. People follow the reputation and are attracted by it with just one glance. Are you Aizen Rear Admiral? While a teenager in the crowd exclaimed, he pushed away the person standing in front of him and rushed out. He looked so agitated that he accidentally tripped while making his way through the crowd. A handsome face fell straight to the ground. What? Just when he subconsciously thought he was going to fall badly, he cried out. The expected pain didn't happen. When he opened his eyes, he found himself suspended in midair, his face almost touching the ground. If it wasn't for a hammock emitting blue light below him to catch him, he might really be disfigured. Looking up, the blue light at one end of the hammock connects to Aizen's fingertips. 37 hanging stars of Bakudo. Realizing that it was Aizen who saved him, the boy became even more excited. He quickly ran to Aizen and said excitedly, "Aizen Rear Admiral, is it really Aizen Rear Admiral? I am your idol." The boy spoke incoherently, his eyes fixed on Aizen. It looked like it was a hallucination. Hearing his words, the people around also started talking. Is it really that Aizen Rear Admiral? It's him, it must be him, I was rescued by him when I ran with a caravan before. At the beginning, the third child of my family wanted to become a pirate and almost died at sea. If he hadn't been lucky enough to meet Aizen Rear Admiral before committing a crime, and was persuaded to come back by him, I'm afraid he wouldn't know where he died now. Aizen ignored the surrounding discussions. Just putting his hand on the boy's shoulder, he said softly, "Idol, can you do me a favor?" What? At this moment, the young man finally realized that he had just said the wrong thing, and lowered his head in embarrassment. Damn it, it's not easy to meet the idol, and it's such a big embarrassment. That, Aizen Rear Admiral, I'm not, that, I just. He stuttered and said, and didn't say anything for a while. Hee, don't be nervous, I know. Aizen said with a smile, with a hint of encouragement in his eyes. As if inspired by him, the boy took a deep breath and raised his head, giving a military salute to Aizen. Said loudly, "Please give instructions, sir." His movements are extremely standard, and it can be seen that he has practiced many times. What's your name? Sir, my name is Urid. Wulid, I have a task for you now. Aizen took out a bag of gold coins from his inner pocket and handed it to him. Distribute the money to the bosses whose stalls were damaged. Yes. Ulid responded loudly, took the money and began to distribute it. Those bosses who suffered losses were still crying, but when they heard that Marine wanted compensation, they immediately showed disbelief. This was not the case in the past, and the losses caused by those pirates were all swallowed by them with tears. Unexpectedly, this Marine actually. Some people took the money directly, and then thanked them with gratitude, some people didn't want it, and said that it was all because of the hateful pirates. Marine defeated the pirates to help them, and they couldn't accept the money. In the end, I was ashamed to accept it after Aizen personally persuaded me. Sir, can first join Marine as your subordinate. After finishing everything, Urid looked at Aizen full of expectation, hoping to join the idol team. But obviously he was going to be disappointed. Aizen shook his head slightly. You are too young, come to me when you grow up. Although he failed to get the answer he wanted, the idol's words also gave him endless motivation. He looked seriously at the back of Aizen, who turned around and was about to go away. Master Aizen, I will definitely go back to find you. Sooner or later, I will catch up with you and become a rear admiral like you. Aizen's figure had disappeared, along with the topless pirate. Urid failed to get another response. Just when he lost his expression, the familiar voice was still gentle. Then you have to work hard. Rear admiral is not enough, at least vice admiral is needed. Ulid was stunned in place, and it took him a while to react. Is Aizen-sama vice admiral already? Aizen-sama is vice admiral. Aizen-sama is vice admiral. Aizen vice admiral, so handsome. He was even happier than Aizen himself when he heard the news that his idol had been promoted again, and ran away yelling. Not only him, but the crowd also looked proud. If such a good Marine can become a high-ranking official, life for these commoners will be easier in the future. Just when everyone was cheering for the good news, a blind man with a cane came out from the corner. He looked in the direction Aizen left and murmured, Aizen, even I can't see through my heart. Is the real you what people see? Chapter 29. Because he is the son of One Piece. Advertise here. You won't catch me. After waking up, Ace looked at the two people in front of him with surprise on his face. What does it mean that the two Marines beat him but did not capture him? Could it be that he wanted to use him to blackmail his father? Thinking of this, even though he has no power to fight back now, in order not to drag his father down, he is also ready to fight to the death. It's just that all of this is obviously self-indulgent. Uda came to him only because he heard that Luffy had an extra big brother, so he was upset and wanted to try him. As for the idea of Aizen not interfering at all, his only expectation for Ace is to follow the original trajectory to the beginning of that show. After all, the identity of the son of the One Piece Luogia was the most direct trigger of that great war. As for the result after the curtain ends, whether it is escape from birth or fate, he doesn't care at all. Aizen stretched out his palm and cast open black lens bracket Kaido close black lens bracket. Under the shroud of bright green light, Ace's eyes burst into incredible light. What is this? Is it the return of life? No, how could life return be used on others? Isn't his ability a phantom fruit? Was it all fake news? Although I can't believe it, the fact is that his injuries are indeed recovering. What the hell are you trying to do? Mr. Potter Cass, don't be so nervous, we have no interest in you. Aizen said calmly while healing him. It's just that his words didn't win Ace's trust, but instead let out a sneer. Not interested. It's really not convincing at all from Marine's mouth. If I remember correctly, Mr. Potter Cass did it first. Aizen's words made Ace stagnate. I'm speechless. Thinking back carefully, it seems that he really did the first move. At that time they mentioned Teach, they were anxious about Teach's whereabouts, coupled with their marine identities. Teach, by the way, where is Teach? Tell me where is Teach? In South Snot, Uda said with an unhappy face. Hesitating, Lafitte deliberately delayed. Blackbeard and his group hadn't reached Bana Island yet, and they were currently stopping at South Snort Island along the way for shipbuilding and repairing. Hearing the answer, Ace was not as excited as expected, but was stunned for a moment. Just tell yourself so easily. Aizen's voice sounded again. Mr. Potter Cass, we also know something about Blackbeard Teach. After he defected, he wanted to seek refuge with the world government and replace Crocodile, who was stripped of his title, as the new 7 warlords of the sea. Quote. Headquarters asked him to submit a nomination certificate, and the target of this nomination certificate is your brother, Monkey D. Luffy. What? Ace exclaimed regardless of the pain on his body. That damned bastard Teach, killing Sage wasn't enough, but dared to pay attention to Luffy. Court death. Hearing this, Uda beside him also turned to look at Aizen. He had never said this news before. Aizen turned a deaf ear to Uda's gaze, and continued, we will not arrest you, nor will we intervene in your actions. The only requirement is that you must stop Blackbeard Teach. Why? Why are you helping me? Ace had a complicated expression, with unspeakable doubts in his eyes. Aizen's face was still calm, and he just uttered a name lightly to dispel his worries in an instant. Vice Admiral Garp. Really? So you know. Hearing Garp's name, the guard on Ace's face visibly relaxed. Think about it too, with Garp's fame in Marine, and his friendship with Marshal Sengoku. It seems reasonable that the Marshal's disciple would give this face. In that case, I'm leaving now, and I have to kill Teach before he finds Luffy. Ace stood up with a tired body. After the treatment just now, most of the injuries on his body have healed, but the exhausted physical strength still needs time to recover. He staggered towards the seashore, and before he left, he did not forget to say, I will remember the kindness of both of you. Uda looked at Aizen, and said with some dissatisfaction, you never told me before that the target of that Teach is Luffy. Aizen knew about her relationship with Luffy, yet she still kept such an important matter from her. Aizen didn't elaborate on her dissatisfaction. He just said lightly, does it matter who his target is? This kind of thing is not something he can decide. No matter who he chooses, it will definitely be Ace in the end. Uda was powerless to refute his words. The slightly opened mouth closed, and after a long time, he leisurely asked, is there anything special about this Ace? If he dies, Luffy will be very sad. While talking, Uda did not forget to worry about Luffy. Just in the next moment, Aizen's words made him change his mind just now. Because he is the son of One Piece Gordy. Luo Jia. That's it. Uda's eyes were instantly cold, and his voice was chilling. That's not innocent. Chapter 30 Chaos in Demon Valley Town. Luffy can beat Enel, it makes sense. Advertise here. As the adopted daughter of the red-haired Shanks, one of the 4 emperors, Uda's dislike of pirates not only comes from the experience of being abandoned on Music Island. At the same time, it is also known through the video phone bugs picked up over the years that people all over the world are infested by pirates. The families of people who were living happily were destroyed. And the murderer who led to the start of this era of riots was Ace's father, the former captain of Shanks. One Piece Gordy Luo Jia. His declaration before his death sent the world into a rampage. The number of pirates in this sea skyrocketed, completely out of control. She and Aizen stood above the Magic Valley town, looking at the countless pirates below. Ugly, dirty, messy. Uda couldn't help but wanted to put his hand on Zanpakuto, but just as he put it on, Aizen stopped him. Uda, you are still so impulsive. Hearing what Aizen said, Zanpakuto, who had been half unsheathed, was taken back by Uda again. She is aware of her shortcomings, and considers things far less comprehensively than Aizen, so many things follow Aizen's opinions. Similarly, she also gave Aizen the greatest degree of trust in ability. Although Aizen didn't regard her as a subordinate who came and went as soon as he was called, but in the long run, the way of getting along between the two is almost the same. It is not advisable to fish in a dry marsh. It is the most polite to kill as many pirates as possible while preserving the gathering of pirates. Aizen pulled out the Zanpakuto from his waist as he spoke. Kyoka Suigetsu. You don't need to pay attention to him, it's enough to use some tricks to let some people in the Magic Valley town see and be hypnosis-ed by him. Are you planning to control them to kill each other? In a place where pirates gather, how can there be undead people? After all, they are free pirates. I think this kind of death is more acceptable to them than being killed by Marine. Uda looked at Aizen, who was full of pity, pursed his lips and said nothing more. You don't need to look, just hearing the noisy and chaotic voices below, you know that some pirates have already raised their butcher knives. Charles, what are you doing? It hurts so much, bastard, why did you shoot at me? The two stood in midair like this, admiring the bloody massacre feast. It wasn't until the death and injury of more than 2/3 of the pirates in Magic Valley town that Aizen stopped controlling and Uda left here. And the origin of this fight spread from the mouth of the survivors to the whole sea. In the chaotic battle of the pirates in Mogu town, there were hundreds of large and small pirate groups, and nearly 20,000 casualties. The world was in an uproar. Although these are just weak chickens in the first half, they are not taken seriously by those big guys. But the number of 20,000 people is real, not even the level of 4 emperors has so many. And the reason was actually caused by a quarrel between several pirate captains. Absurd. With some gossip circulating, the strongest man in the world couldn't help sighing after seeing this news. The brats are really hot now. Whether the news is true or not is unknown, but it is at naval headquarters. Sengoku couldn't help laughing out loud. He knew the truth when others didn't know it. What kind of conflict between pirate captains, just to deceive those pirates? It's just an illusion created by Aizen with his illusion ability. Good boy, this thing is done beautifully. While praising his disciples, Sengoku is also planning to maximize the benefits in his heart. It is also worthy of the name of the resourceful general, and soon there is a plan. Come on, spread this matter to me, and show the tragic death and injury to the world. Let more people know how dangerous it is to be a pirate, and stop their thoughts of going to sea. Yes, Marshal. On the other hand, Aizen, the instigator of this series, has arrived at an altitude of 10,000 meters above Qinghai with Uda. That is, Beibei in the population of Sky Island. As this where Sky Island is. It's amazing. Looking at the strange animals that occasionally show their figures in the distance, Uda can't help but marvel at the wonder of the world. There can be islands at such a high altitude. But they have already arrived here, so it means that she will see little Luffy soon. Thinking of this, Uda's mood immediately improved, and the two buns moved like rabbit ears. It seems that the attainment of returning life is not shallow. It's just that not long after she was happy, she got a bad news from Aizen. We should hurry up, otherwise the harvest this time may be let go by the Straw Hat Boy in advance. Not only is this Sky Island located, Enel, who is a Thunderfruit user, is also one of the targets of their trip. According to the development of the original trajectory, it would be difficult to catch Enel after being sent flying to the moon. Enel must be taken down before then. Regarding this point, Aizen had wondered a long time ago, why can the mere rubber fruit ability defeat Enel? Just the so-called rubber insulation. This seems like a joke to Aizen. Not to mention 200 million volts. Even 30 million volts. The heat generated by Thunderbird can instantly melt the rubber. But Luffy actually blocked it and won the battle. I didn't know until later that it turned out to be the form of Zone Phantom Beast Human Fruit Nika. That's all right. Reasonable. Chapter 31 Uda. What are you going to do to my brother? Advertise here. At this time on Sky Island. A thunderbolt struck in front of Nami. The sound of boom frightened the little thief cat into a fool. Not far away, Zoro and Robin were charred black, paralyzed there dying, already unable to fight back. This is the fate of being an enemy of God, mortal. Yahahaha. Enel, who compares himself to a god on Sky Island, is laughing wildly at the moment. Laughing at this group of overwhelmed guys. When his eyes fell on Nami, the thunder light flickered on the taiko drum behind him, as if he was about to attack. Faced with his strength, Nami can only choose to surrender, expressing his willingness to go to the moon with him. As a navigator, she was exactly what Enel needed. It is your honor to be able to serve God. Nami didn't dare to refute, and could only nod in agreement. Then he left with Enel, and before leaving, he still looked back worriedly at his companion over there. Just when they came to the Ark of Proverbs, Enel had just sat on his throne. A message came from his special observation hockey heart net. On the white sea outside Angel Beach in the distance, an unexpected guest appeared. A rare look of surprise appeared on Enel's face. There are people I can't hear, how is that possible? It's just that between Setsuna, his face was extremely gloomy. A bug that can escape the visitation of the gods is a shame to the gods. It is the existence of blasphemy. They must be eradicated. His angry expression made Nami, who was standing on the deck below, feel very guilty, thinking that he had been discovered for his false surrender. But when she found that Enel's gaze was not looking at her, he couldn't help but boldly asked, "You, what's the matter?" His voice was trembling, and his expression was unnatural. But Enel didn't care, and took it for granted. It is only natural for mortals to remain in fear in the face of gods. It's nothing, I just found an interesting bug. Although I was extremely unhappy, I couldn't lose my god's personality. You wait here, and this god will wipe out that bug. On the other side, Uda looked at Aizen in disbelief, and exclaimed, can the range of knowledge and knowledge cover a whole country? His knowledge is indeed interesting. Unlike Uda, Aizen's knowledge can be turned on anytime and anywhere, so he was not noticed by Enel when he appeared on Sky Island. On the contrary, it was Uda who was next to him, who only became knowledgeable after hearing Aizen's words. And she is the worm in Enel's mouth. Losing the lock of the heart net, Enel had to do it himself. This made him extremely upset. Just as the electric light flashed on his body, he was about to leave. At this moment, a familiar shout sounded, instantly attracting Nami's attention. Guy Enel, what did you do to my mate? The appearance of Luffy attracted Enel, who was about to leave. It also made Nami see hope, lying on the side of the Ark motto, Luffy. It's really annoying. What kind of garbage are you referring to? Facing Luffy's inquiry, Enel scoffed. And his words made Luffy even more angry. He would never allow someone to humiliate his partner like this. You wait for me, I'm going to beat you up now. The more Luffy said this, the angrier Enel became. Mortal, do you want to blaspheme? How do you look like a god? Luffy's words angered Enel instantly. He waved the golden stick in his hand and struck the taiko drum behind him, and a bolt of lightning was released from the taiko drum. When his moves were concentrated, Luffy also attacked him. Jump into the air. Machine gun. 30 million volts Thunderbird. Luffy. When the Thunderbird's attack landed on Luffy, Nami collapsed in despair. Enel also showed a smug smile. But before the thunder light dissipated, a figure jumped out from the blue arc and punched him in the face. Boom. Enel was instantly knocked into the air and hit the deck heavily, with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. Standing up with difficulty, he looked at Luffy in disbelief. What's going on? It's obviously been hit. Unwillingly, he continued to attack. 60 million volts. Brontosaurus, and 100 million volts. Discharge were all hits. But there is no effect. The successive attacks failed to achieve the slightest effect, and he was hit by Luffy many times during the battle. Nami, who was watching the battle next to him, probably understood the reason after seeing their battle, and couldn't help but smile on his face. There is hope, Luffy can beat Enel. And her thoughts were immediately captured by Enel, who has a hard network. So it's rubber. Enel smiled, using the lightning speed to appear behind Luffy in an instant, and hit him on the shoulder with a stick. Since thunder and lightning don't work, physical skills are always useful. In the next few confrontations, Luffy was completely at a disadvantage. Enel relied on the lightning elemental speed and powerful mind network ability to beat him to pieces. In this process, Enel is also constantly observing. When he found that his golden rod had little effect on Luffy. Lay metallurgy. The golden rod in his hand turned into a trident under the high-temperature electric heat, which made Nami, who had just raised hope, feel powerless. Luffy's physical strength was also greatly exhausted after being injured one after another. Die. Blasphemer. Just when the golden trident pierced out, the distance from Luffy was only inches away. It stopped. Uda, who came belatedly, stood in the air, grasping the halberd blade with his right hand wrapped around his armor. He looked at Enel with anger in his eyes. What are you going to do to my brother? Chapter 32. The God who was underestimated. Advertise here. What are you going to do to my brother? Uda glared at Enel, and broke off the tip of the golden trident with a force in his hand. Her appearance surprised Enel at first, followed by a strong killing intent. It was her, the one who could escape the detection of her own heart network. Lightning flashed, and Enel opened the distance between the two. Appeared dozens of steps away, with bulging veins on his head, staring at the two of them. Are you his older sister? I never thought that the two blasphemers would have such a relationship, trying to defy God's will. What kind of stupid family did you come from to have siblings like you? ? Ah, Enel's words managed to make Aizen laugh out loud. In just one sentence, the red hair of one of the four emperors, Garp the marine hero, and the dragon, the leader of the revolutionary army, were all scolded at the same time. I have to say that Enel's ignorant arrogance is sometimes quite comic. Who? Hearing that chuckle, Enel was startled and turned around to look at him hastily. When the figure of Aizen appeared in his line of sight, the whole person was stunned. How is it possible? I can't perceive your existence. Who the hell are you? He who has relied on the ability of the heart network for a long time can't even believe his eyes. The man is standing behind him, but he didn't notice it at all. On the deck of the Ark Proverbs below, Nami looked at the two people who suddenly appeared and didn't seem to take Enel seriously. Not only did he not feel lucky, but he felt as if he had just stepped out of the wolf's den and into the tiger's mouth. I'm going to die. I've come to Sky Island. Why is there still marine? The whole face froze. It was only when he heard Enel's sister and brother clearly that he showed a puzzled expression. Elder sister. Whose sister? Luffy. Impossible. How could he, a pirate captain with a bounty of 100 million, have a sister who is a marine? Judging by the cloak of justice on her body, at least she is still an officer. And it wasn't just Nami who was wondering. Even Luffy, who had just been protected by Uda, tilted her head and looked at her back. Ah, brother, who are you talking about? He looked at Uda with question marks all over his face, and he always felt a little familiar, but he couldn't remember it. He still knew Marine's cloak, except for that devil grandpa. He doesn't know other Marines either. After years of separation, even Luffy couldn't think of her for the first time. Over there, Enel couldn't hide the horror on his face. The first time. It was the first time he had this condition since he ate thunder fruit. Aizen couldn't help shaking his head seeing Enel's look like he had seen a ghost. Sure enough, it was just a lucky native who ate the thunder fruit, relying on the power of the thunder fruit to compare himself to a god, but he didn't know the vastness of the sea. Like a frog in a well. Don't be surprised, there are many strong players who can do this in Qinghai. Hearing what Aizen said, Enel, who was originally surprised, calmed down instead. Not only that, but he also let out a sneer. Hey, mortals should not think that they can talk nonsense because they have obtained some special abilities. It is a great crime to deceive the gods. In his heart, the power of his heart network is almost like a god-given authority. If it is said that there are a few people in Qinghai who are not afraid, like the two people in front of them, then maybe he will believe it. But what Aizen said is everywhere. This had to make Enel doubt the authenticity of what he said. How could such a powerful ability be mastered by many people? This guy must be trying to deceive himself. Seeing that Enel can't do it, Aizen is too lazy to say more. Just under Yuda's surprised gaze, he put his hand on Zanpakuto at his waist. A person of his strength is worthy of your own hands. Uda asked. Aizen said with a chuckle. His knowledge color is very special. He was blessed by thunder fruit when his knowledge color was not strong, and he just raised the effect to a height that he shouldn't have. I want to see if I can break my Kyoka Suigetsu. He said it lightly, but it made Enel over there very angry. He roared angrily at Aizen. Mortal, are you teasing me? Xinhuang is my authority as a god, and it's not the damn knowledge you're talking about. Bang, bang. While roaring, the remnant halberd in Enel's hand glowed with thunder, and the taiko drum behind him also burst into brilliant solitary light. 100 million volts discharge. At the moment when the move was released, Enel's eyes were fixed on Aizen, and the mind net ability was fully activated to lock on him. However, Aizen disappeared in place in a blink of an eye. The speed is so fast that Enel is hard to catch. After losing track of Aizen, he kept looking around, but couldn't find him. Enel didn't realize it until that damned voice came from above his head. The moment he looked up, he saw the man holding a saber and his lips moving slightly. Shatter. Kyoka Suigetsu. Chapter 33 Terrible Analysis, Special Knowledge and Color Conjecture. Advertise here. In Enel's presence, Aizen freed Kyoka Suigetsu. And start to build at this moment, vision, hearing, smell, unfold one by one. In order to better confirm what he thought in his heart, he also withdrew observation haki in advance, exposing his aura to Enel's mind without reservation. This made Enel, who suddenly sensed him, ecstatic. Sure enough, my heart network is still useful, there must be something wrong just now. At this moment, he has been reduced to a test subject, completely unaware that he has been disturbed by the five senses hypnosis. Just when he was about to continue to attack Aizen above his head. Xinhuang's ability gave him a completely opposite ability. He's clearly on top, but why does Xinhuang give me feedback from behind? Enel subconsciously glanced in the direction of Aizen. It was this move that made Aizen judge that his heart network was not affected by Kyoka Suigetsu. So what does his heart network rely on? Aizen's experiments continue. But every illusion created by hypnosis will be seen through by Enel's heart network. Until Aizen swapped his place with Lafitte in the vision of hypnosis. Enel failed to see through this time. He just laughed and said, after knowing that this little trick is useless, did you choose to give up? Then let this god give you the final divine punishment. 60 million volts Brontosaurus. The Brontosaur carrying terror and destruction actually flew directly past Aizen and attacked Luffy over there. It caught him off guard, but thanks to Luffy's ability, he was not injured. Ah, big-eared boy, you are actually sneak attacking, look at me flying you now. As he spoke, he rushed towards Enel. Guo Mo, Guo Moruo. Bazooka. His move also surprised Enel. Why is the Qinghai man wearing glasses immune to his lightning? Could it be that he is also a rubber man? At this moment, in Enel's eyes, the Luffy rushing towards him is Aizen. At this moment, the real Aizen replaced Luffy's identity and stood aside to watch the battle. How did you do it? Uda, who was watching the whole process, walked to his side and asked. Aizen didn't hide either, opening Shikai to release the key to his Enel's heart network ability. Bioelectricity. Bioelectricity. Well, the potential and polarity changes that occur in the organs, tissues and cells of organisms during life activities. It can be said that as long as there are living organisms, there will be bioelectricity. It is precisely because of this that Enel can perceive the position of the person, but cannot distinguish the real target, plus my manipulation of his five senses. Now he's mistaking the straw hat for me. Quote. Looking at the two of them fighting together, Aizen couldn't help showing a satisfied smile. Once again, he played with others in the palm of his hand. Uda listened with half understanding, and finally asked the most important question with a frown. So what is the conclusion of your experiment? To her question, Aizen shook her head. One set of tests cannot infer accurate results. However, it does not prevent us from making bold guesses. He changed the subject and said seriously, assume that the specialness of Enel's observation haki comes from Thunder Fruit's control over electricity. Then other people with special talent for knowledge must also have their own differences. For example, a blind person, after losing his sight, will also have greatly improved hearing. With this talent, can he obtain more information through the surrounding sounds? Like emotions. So the conclusion I assume is that the observation haki of these people should be an additional medium on top of the foundation. It is this medium that makes them unique. Quote. Uda was dumbfounded by Aizen's analysis. This person, how does this person's brain grow? Not only Uda, but also hiding in the corner on the other side of the arc proverbs. Nami, who has been eavesdropping for a long time, only feels creepy at the moment. Terrible. This marine is really scary. In a short period of time, he analyzed Enel's monster-like ability and put forward a hypothesis based on it. What's even more frightening is that he actually manipulated Enel's cognition. Like a monkey trick affecting his fight with Luffy. This man, is definitely a monster 10,000 times scarier than Enel. Thinking of this, the gentle image of Aizen so far has become no less terrifying than a man-eating devil in Nami's heart. She curled up in the corner, trembling slightly. Look weak, pitiful, and helpless. Seeing that the battle between Luffy and Enel has reached a stalemate again, Aizen also lost his patience. Now that you have the answer you want, let's end this farce as soon as possible. Aizen, a Shunpo appeared in front of Enel, with a knife in his hand. Hado 78 slashing flower wheel. Blood spattered in Setsuna's room. Chapter 34 Sister and Brother Reunion, Yuda's Determination. Advertise here. Aizen flicked Zanpakuto in his hand, and the blood on the blade was swayed. Enel, who was so brave just now, lost the battle in an instant under this knife. Lying motionless on the ground, apparently unconscious. Luffy, who was full of momentum, lost his opponent when he was about to make a shot. He glared at Aizen with rounded eyes. What are you doing? I said I would beat him up. Luffy is a simple person, and there are not so many sinister ideas in his worldview. Although Yushi was a bit reckless, he was also a person with a great sense of justice. The battle between the two was suddenly intervened, and in his opinion it was still a means of sneak attack. This made him even more upset. Just when he was about to continue his argument with Aizen, Nami, who was hiding in the corner, was afraid that he would say something to anger the terrible marine, so he ran out boldly. Luffy, wait a minute. Oh, Nami, I'm glad you're alright. Seeing Nami running all the way, as if unhurt, Luffy couldn't help but smile. But Nami walked over and ignored him, and said to Aizen, this marine officer is really amazing, he defeated the nasty villains and saved the civilians on Sky Island. Nami, what are you doing? Obviously he stole. He's scary, please be quiet. Ha. Ha ha. Nami reminded while covering Luffy's mouth, and smiled at Aizen with a stiff face. Through the understanding just now, she is sure that Luffy is definitely not the opponent of this marine. It's not that he doesn't trust Luffy, but the consciousness shown by Aizen is really terrible. He couldn't help playing with Enel, and even pushed Luffy out like a monkey. Until that Enel was defeated, he still thought his opponent was this marine. Such an opponent is not something they can fight against now. So she can only bet that this marine who suddenly appeared doesn't know them yet. After all, there are as many pirates in the sea as carp crossing the river, and it is normal to have unknown pirates. The calculation was good, but she was destined to be disappointed. Aizen looked at her with a half smile. You're welcome, Ms. Thieving Cat. A simple title fell on Nami's ears like a bolt from the blue. It's over, this marine recognized them. Or know them from the beginning. Die or die. Just when she thought she was going to confess to being here today, a turning point appeared. Uda over there strolled over, stretched out his hand and grabbed Luffy's cheek and stretched it out. Then let go abruptly, letting it bounce back again. I have to say that the unawakened rubber fruit is really interesting, it can be long, round or flat. Luffy, long time no see. Luffy, who was brutally murdered, looked puzzled and looked her up and down. Who are you? Nami's eyes brightened, combining what this woman marine said before, and her current attitude towards Luffy. Are you friends with Luffy? She asked carefully. Friend, I'm Luffy's sister. Huh. Luffy was the first to yell when he heard that. Then he sized Uda up and down with his brows tightly furrowed. You are Uda. The moment he recognized Uda, a familiar smile bloomed on his face. Uda, where have you been all these years? When Shanks was in East Blue, he and Uda met, and the two often competed. Uda always wins him by clever means, which makes Luffy very unconvinced. But the relationship between the two is very good, it is not an exaggeration to say that they are childhood sweethearts. But after Shanks went out to sea once, Uda never came back. Asked Shanks, he refused to say more, just said that Uda is to realize his music dream. Luffy is very happy to meet her childhood playmate again after so many years' absence. Even the dissatisfaction with Aizen just now was forgotten. Luffy smiled silly. It's just that he was a bit dull by nature, so he couldn't notice the sadness on Uda's face, and kept saying, I was worried for a long time at that time, but later Shanks and the others said that you went to pursue your dream. Chasing a dream. Her dream was once to be a musician called Red Hair Pirates, who would bring happiness to the world through music. Now, still so. Uda's hand caressed Zanpakuto at his waist, his eyes determined. Only this time, not as a Red Hair Pirates musician. But the current naval headquarters major. In the future Zai Palace, the general manager. Chapter 35 Long time no see. Robin. Advertise here. On Sky Island's Ark Proverbs, the Straw Hat crew was found and picked up by Nami one by one. At the moment when everyone formally gathered together, Luffy happily introduced Uda to his partner, and deliberately skipped Aizen very unhappy. He didn't like the guy who stole his opponent. Although Nami had explained to him that the real two sides in that battle were Enel and Aizen, Luffy was just a substitute, who was summoned halfway. But with Luffy's character, how could he understand these things? He only knew that he was fighting Enel, and was intervened by this nasty marine. But because of Uda's friend, he didn't care about it. And after he introduced Uda's identity to everyone, he also surprised them. I didn't expect Luffy's sister to be a marine. It's really surprising. Zoro, who was gradually recovering from his injuries, took out a bottle of wine from somewhere and drank it. Different from his calmness, Sanji's eyes turned into the shape of a heart at this moment. Miss Uda, it's so beautiful. When he was cheering, he almost knocked over Zoro's wine, which made Zoro very upset. Hey, you perverted Kappa, what are you going crazy about? Ah, are you looking for faults? Then there was an argument. After being disturbed by them, the atmosphere on the whole ship became joyful. While everyone was making noise, Robin, who had been in a coma for a long time, finally woke up. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was two Marines and Luffy wearing justice cloaks standing together. How come? Why is there a Marine here? After years of hunting and suffering, she was sensitive and suspicious. Luffy, she called out in a rapid voice, which immediately caught Luffy's attention. Robin, you're awake. Luffy, who are they? Robin stared at Aizen and Uda with a vigilant expression. Seeing her asking, Luffy didn't care, and introduced the two of them again. Only this time, after he finished introducing Uda, he found that Robin's eyes were fixed on Aizen. His body trembled a little, and his voice choked up. Yes, is that you? It's been a long time, Robin. Aizen looked at her with a smile. Huh, Robin, do you know this nasty Marine? The nervous Luffy didn't realize it yet, and asked stupidly, but soon he also noticed it. At this moment, Robin burst into tears, with indescribable pain between his brows. Regardless of his seriously injured body, he got up and rushed towards Aizen. Seeing this, Uda wanted to stop him, but was stopped by Aizen. Robin grabbed Aizen by the collar and roared at the top of his lungs. How can you be a Marine? Have you forgotten what they did on Ohara? Wronged, sad, hated. Her roar also attracted the attention of others. The partners cast their eyes here one after another and remained silent. In the current situation, anyone can see that these two people are old acquaintances and have unknown stories. It's the kind that even if they are companions, it's not convenient to intervene. And Uda was also attracted by what Robin said. Although she has been with Aizen for several years, she never knew Aizen's origin. I didn't expect to find the answer here this time. Ohara. At the same time, 5 elders is the supreme power of the world government. We are getting together to discuss, and the target of this topic is Aizen. Marine did a good job with the incident on Gaia Island this time. It not only wiped out a large number of pirates, but also deterred the restless civilians. The report said that the student Sengoku did it. With such a student, the name of Sengoku the resourceful general can be regarded as a successor. Aizen Sōsuke. I heard that the Roswald Saints are very interested in him. Interested. Their family is not the one who would be grateful to Dade for saving their lives, and the monster that attacked them has no clue yet. You suspect that Aizen approached them on purpose. It's not impossible. As one of Ohara's only survivors, it's hard to guarantee that he won't harbor hatred for his original decision. Hearing this, the old man with the knife burst out laughing. Don't worry about this, he is different from those historians who don't know how to live or die. This young man is very smart and knows the times. In Arc Proverbs, facing Robin's persecution. Aizen sighed softly, with a look of helplessness on his face. Such a look fell into Robin's eyes, which gave her another glimmer of hope. There must be something unspeakable, right? It must be a desperate choice after experiencing countless hardships, right? Various reasons kept flashing in her mind, all kinds of reasons why Aizen joined Marine in desperation. But, she is doomed to be disappointed. Aizen looked at her helplessly, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but curl into a chuckle. Becoming Marine is my own wish, and I took the initiative to find Marine. What? Robin's staring eyes gradually lost consciousness, and all the reasons she expected failed to appear, but the truth was the most unacceptable and cruel to her. She fell powerlessly to the ground, and after countless times of betrayal, she finally tasted such a taste. Are you worthy of Grandpa Clover? Are you worthy of your dead compatriots? They're just looking for the truth. What's wrong? Of course there is a mistake. Facing Robin's questioning, Aizen's voice was cold. Chapter 36 There is nothing wrong with pursuing the truth, it is the weak who are wrong. Advertise here. Of course there is a mistake. Aizen's words were cold and harsh, but there was a gentle and warm smile on his face. Such a familiar expression said such unfamiliar words, Robin sat there in a daze. Long silence. It's just that the look in Aizen's eyes is very strange. Hey, what did you do to Robin? Seeing Robin like this, Luffy shouted at Aizen accusingly. But Aizen didn't even look at him, just looked down at Robin like that. The atmosphere became tense again for a while, just in case, Zoro and Sanji, who are the main battle members of the pirate group, approached. Control the distance with Aizen within the attackable range. Hey, I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? Luffy didn't respond after seeing him for so long, and then looked at Robin's state. Worried about his companion, he rushed towards Aizen. Luffy, stop. Uda rushed out in front of Aizen. Uda, get out of the way. Luffy thought Uda was protecting that nasty Marine, but what he didn't know was that Uda was really protecting him. Just as the two were entangled, Aizen over there moved. He, Shunpo, appeared behind Luffy, and before Luffy could react, he kicked him flying with a side kick. Bakudo's 61 6-stick light prison. 6 paths light sheets surrounded Luffy in midair, instantly locking his movements. The whole person is like a painting being stared at the wall, firmly fixed in midair. Asshole. Seeing this, the rest of the companions didn't care too much, and shot one after another. 3 sword style demon slash. Devil wind kick. ... The attack fell directly on Aizen, but he did not dodge. When the moves of the two were about to touch him, he blocked Sanji's calf with one hand, and pinched Zoro's blade with the other hand in a twisting motion. No matter how hard the two of them tried, they couldn't make any progress. Seeing the understatement on his face, Zoro actually stretched out the powerlessness that East Blue-faced Hawkeye again. Is the gap that big? Aizen squinted at him, and said lightly, the knife swing is good, but the angle is not very good. After finishing speaking, the fingertips of both hands slightly pointed at the two of them. One of Hado Rush. 2 shock waves emanated from the fingertips, knocking the two of them into the air. Immediately afterwards, there was another Bakudo no 30. Mouth flashing 3 times, 2 consecutive shots. 3 huge beak-shaped light beams respectively fixed the hands and waists of the 2 people who were knocked into the air to the ground. Zoro and Sanji are completely incapacitated. Zoro. Sanji. Bastard. Let me go. Seeing that the two were defeated, Luffy struggled harder. But it never helped. The battle is over in the blink of an eye. Seeing this situation, the rest of the people were too shocked to speak. Uda wanted to persuade Aizen, but was also pushed back by his expressionless eyes. Robin watched him approaching step by step, and couldn't help letting out a miserable laugh. Ha ha ha. So, is Master Marine going to arrest me here? Arrest me, the son of the devil, and dedicate it to the adults of the world government. When she said those words, she was ready to be arrested. At the same time, he was completely disappointed in the old man in front of him. Just when she thought Aizen was going to attack her too. Aizen said slowly, I originally thought that after all these years, you would become smarter. It seems that I still overestimated you. Robin glared at him, teeth clenched. He can kill her, but he can't humiliate Ohara's spirit of pursuing the truth. But before she opened her mouth to refute, Aizen's next sentence stunned her. You think I said they were wrong, accusing them of not pursuing the truth? Is not it? Of course not. In order to pursue the truth of history, Dr. Clover and the others knew that the world government had explicitly prohibited it, but they still refused to look back. This is to sacrifice one's life for righteousness. Aizen admires it. Quote. You, then you still. Aizen's words made Robin a little overwhelmed. They did not have the strength to protect themselves, and they underestimated the cruelty of the world government. A group of powerless scholars attempting to grasp the truth concealed by the world government is tantamount to a child holding a knife. A group of knowledgeable scholars underestimates the cruelty of those in power is tantamount to fish under the knife. Quote. Even if Ohara defected to the Revolutionary Army and the big pirate at that time, it would not have ended up like this. Speaking of this, Aizen's expression could not help showing a trace of emotion. Ask Robin back. Why do you think they are? Is it because they don't want to associate with thieves? Or is it naive to think that knowledge is free and should not be controlled by any force? His words hit Robin's ears like a bolt from the blue. So, did he think so? Then you, why did you become a Marine? Hearing Robin's question, Aizen became indifferent again. Now that everything is over, if you continue to pursue the truth, that has nothing to do with me. Similarly, what I want to do has nothing to do with you. Then he took Uda and left. Chapter 37 Transforming Enel. Advertise here. After Aizen left, the shackles on Luffy and others were also released. They walked up to Robin worriedly. Robin, are you okay? Nami, who is also a girl, helped her up carefully, her eyes full of worry. Chopper ran over to give Luffy and the others 3 checks. I'm fine, you better go see Luffy first, he was kicked just now. Zoro and Sanji said that they were fine, and urged him to see Luffy over there. After a careful inspection, Chopper seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. It's just 3 broken ribs, it's okay. But Zoro and the others looked over in disbelief, their eyes shocked. Chopper backed away again and again in fright. What are you going to do? These guys don't really want to use him as emergency food to make up for Luffy, do they? Just when he was thinking wildly, he heard Usopp over there say, isn't Luffy rubber? Why would someone break his ribs by kicking him? While looking at each other, Nami did not forget to add. Enel can turn into lightning, except Luffy is rubber and can touch him, so can Uda and Aizen. They are like asking Robin about Aizen, but obviously, Robin in his current state is like a lost soul, and it is not suitable to answer their questions. They can only take Luffy back to Angel Island with heavy hearts. Enel's failure allowed Sky Island's crisis to be resolved, and they also needed to ring the golden bell as agreed. As long as everyone is safe, there will always be a chance to get this answer later. On the other side, after leaving, Aizen and Uda came to a remote place. Aizen threw the captured Enel to the ground. At this time, his breath of life was extremely weak, and his consciousness was also in a deep sleep. If it is not treated in time, it is basically dead. Are you bringing him back to transform him into a Shinigami? Or an Arrancar? Uda naturally avoided the topic just now, and asked what to do with Enel. Satisfied with her reaction, Aizen couldn't help showing a small smile. The good show will be staged soon, and the Zai Palace is still too deserted. This Enel is rebellious, and compares himself to a god. Is it really possible to transform him into Arrancar? Don't worry, I can interfere with Hogyoku, and the Vice Admiral piece is the missing part in the process of transforming into virtual, just like Lafitte back then. With that said, Aizen took out the Hogyoku. Inject the precious jade that emits blue-black light into Enel's body. The intense pain stimulated him, and his consciousness regained a bit. Puff. What the hell is right, what did this god do? Enel stumbled and said, spitting out white liquid from his mouth from time to time. Don't worry, Aizen said softly, when you stand up again, it will be a brand new you. Bastard, woo. Enel was about to say something rude when his face was covered. Gradually the sound of struggling disappeared. Taking advantage of this gap, Uda also asked about Aizen's plans. I heard that there is a lot of gold on this island, don't you want to collect it? It will cost a lot to build the Zai Palace, right? It's just some gold, there's no need to waste this time. Compared to this, I want this sky island more. Looking beyond the cumulus clouds in the distance, the blue sky. Such an excellent place is the best choice for the throne. Uda frowned when he heard this. Sky Island was previously under the control of Enel, and there was no other threat. It can be said that after losing Enel, Sky Island will inevitably become one of the few pure lands in the world. The people are happy. Is it really good to use this place as the location of the Zai Palace and involve the people here in the future impact of the Zai Palace and the world government? Uda hesitated. Are you worried? Then use your eyes to see carefully. Hearing Aizen say that, she knew that Aizen had made up his mind. Powerless to change, she could only nod her head heavily, staring at Aizen's face seriously and said, I will keep an eye on you. Is it? Then you must look more carefully. In the conversation between the two without a sentence. Enel on the ground responded. Lightning flashed on the bony shell, and it instantly shattered into powder, revealing the real body inside. The appearance of the whole person has not changed much, but there is an extra semicircular crown on his head, which is his mask. In addition, the taiko behind him disappeared, and instead a taidao appeared on his waist. Enel meets my god. There was a little fanaticism in his eyes looking at Aizen, and he actually called Aizen a god. This made Aizen also unexpected. Unexpectedly, even though his soul was changed and part of him was missing emotionally, he would still not forget his attachment to the gods. Aizen didn't pay too much attention to this, but looked at him with a smile. Since you have succeeded, then temporarily take the position of the first espada. Thank God for the gift. As soon as Enel finished speaking, a dark one appeared on his left waist. Meanwhile, far away on the island of South Snort, Lafitte, standing behind Teach and confronting Ace, also sensed the change in his shoulder. Immediately, his face became ugly, and his already pale face looked even more gloomy. Has your lord transformed the new Arrancar? And granted him the title of the first espada. As the first person to be successfully transformed into Arrancar. This original first espada was his. It seems that the task of adults must be completed as soon as possible. Unwilling, he looked at Teach in front of him, his eyes became terrifying. Unaware of this, Blackbeard Teach is trying to recruit the former leader, Ace. Captain Ace, join my pirate team. Thief ha ha ha, hiccup. Where is the chill coming from? Did what I just said irritate Ace? Sure enough, he will not betray his father, so he can only be defeated here. P.S. Ask for a wave of data. I hope you guys can give me some support. If you are watching, please, squeak. Chapter 38. Uda's request, encounter with Aokiji. Advertise here. In the next few days, after receiving the news from Lafitte, Aizen left early. Enel and Uda were left behind, and the task of conquering Sky Island was given to them. When Uda showed up again with Enel, it was the time when Luffy and others resolved the enmity between the Sky Islanders and the Sandiers and were about to leave. Uda, isn't that nasty marine with you? Although he hates Aizen extremely, but with Luffy's character, he will never take his anger out on her because of Uda's relationship with Aizen. So when Uda showed up, he still happily ran over. He had a quick meeting last time, and he still had a lot to say to Uda. It's just that what he said just now failed to get a reply from Uda, but an unexpected voice came. Lord Uda, this guy is disrespectful to God, let me teach him how to be humble as a mortal. Enel sat on the bow of Going Merry, looking at Luffy dangerously. And his appearance shocked everyone. Enel, are you still alive? Nami covered his mouth, eyes full of fear. And Zoro has already drawn out the saber around his waist and entered the combat readiness stance. Luffy rushed forward even more, and was about to fulfill his promise to beat Enel to the ground. But this time, it was Robin who stopped everyone. Wait a minute, don't do anything yet. In the previous conversation, she clearly did not deliver a terrible news. Enel turned to Aizen and called him a god. Even Luffy's older sister, Uda, is honored as an adult by this pretentious, old god. Luffy was stopped by Robin, and Enel was also called back by Uda. Uda, seeing that nasty, big-eared boy, obediently standing behind her under Uda's call. Luffy couldn't help calling Uda's name. He didn't understand why Uda would hang out with this man who ruled Sky Island and killed its residents at will. Feeling his gaze, Uda was silent for a moment, and glanced at Robin over there. Only at this moment did she understand Aizen's attitude towards Robin a few days ago. Although they once had the same dreams, now they each have their own goals. And for this goal, differences, prejudices, disputes, and even swordsmanship. No hesitation. Luffy, I'm officially notifying you. We will take over Sky Island and from here on, bring happiness to more people. Uda has a serious expression and speaks loudly. Luffy opened his mouth, wanting to say something. Just looking at her serious face confirmed her determination. So, is there still going to be a fight? Zoro tightened his grip on the knife in his hand, his eyes were not good. Sanji's eyes swept over Uda directly, and looked at Enel behind her. Picking up the curly eyebrows on one side, he took out the lighter and lit a cigarette for himself. Call. Breathing out a puff of green smoke, he said solemnly, I won't do anything to a woman, leave that Enel to me. Even though he knew he couldn't beat Enel, he just went up to die. Both sides are ready to fight, all it takes is a command from Luffy and Uda. Luffy saw the firmness in Uda's eyes, and finally chose to believe her. I believe, Uda, you will definitely be able to bring happiness to the people here. Luffy. Just when Uda was moved by his trust, Luffy immediately said the next sentence, if he does bad things again, I will beat you up. Luffy said it very seriously, the kind that can really beat you up. This time, Uda's belief in bringing people happiness made him decide not to pursue the crimes committed by Enel. Thank you Luffy, I'll make Enel atone for it. ... After bidding farewell to Luffy, Uda looked at Enel, who had been silent behind him. Feeling the changes after he transformed into Arrancar. It's so big, if she hadn't learned from Aizen before, she wouldn't believe that Enel, who used to open his mouth as God, and shut up as mortal, was bullied because he didn't have wings when he was young, and he felt extremely inferior in his heart. This led to his extremely inflated personality after gaining the power of Thunder Fruit, and he even regarded himself as a god. Now that his emotion is missing, his temperament has become quite normal. This will be an important stronghold for us in the future. Apart from guarding this place, the rest is to atone for our sins. Yes, Lord Uda. One after the other, the two came to the settlement of Sky Island and Sandia and started their work. The process will be long and equally difficult. Because Uda knew that if it was handled by Aizen, it might not be what she wanted to see. So she offered to take on the task and stay on Sky Island for some time to come. This is Uda's request. Aizen agreed. While Uda and Enel were busy running around, Aizen, who left early, met a person in this sea area. A guy riding a bike on the ocean. Aokiji Admiral, I didn't expect to meet you in this sea area, what a surprise. Ah la la, who was I at the time? It turned out to be Brother Aizen. I haven't had time to congratulate you on becoming Vice Admiral. Aokiji Admiral is too polite, I still want to thank you for saving my life. Aizen's gentle tone made Aokiji, who had always felt guilty, very uncomfortable. True, he was the one who let Robin and Aizen go out of compassion. But he, who participated in the Ohara Buster Call operation, still felt ashamed to accept such gentle treatment from Aizen. So when he was in the headquarters, he has been deliberately avoiding Aizen. Minimize exposure as much as possible. I don't want it to be such a coincidence that I can meet them whenever I go to sea to do missions. Jingle bell. The hand bell of the bicycle was rang, and Aokiji fell silent, looking at the road ahead seriously with a pair of eyes. It seems that if you don't do this, you will hit a pedestrian. In this way, he didn't look at him behind Aizen's glasses. It was a look like looking at prey. Aokiji Admiral, what will be your future fate? Chapter 39. The Seed of Hints, return to this part. Advertise here. The chance meeting with Aokiji ends quickly with simple pleasantries. Aizen used other excuses to tell him the news of Ace in South Snort Island. Aokiji heard the news and left without stopping. Being with Aizen made him feel very uncomfortable. Not long after the two separated, Aizen's warship arrived late. Under the control of Kyoka Suigetsu, the officers and soldiers who put on did not notice anything unusual. Even in their view, they also participated in the plan to eliminate Marine in Magic Valley Town. No one in Marine knew that he disappeared for a few days, let alone that he had been to Sky Island. Everything is as he expected. However, when he saw that there was an extra person in his Marine that shouldn't be there, he couldn't help but smile. I don't know when this Mr. CP came. A man in a black suit appeared on Aizen's boat. He wore a pair of narrow triangle sunglasses on his head, and his two catfish-like beards made him look very obscene. Jabra, one of the members of CP9, Zongo fruit, a person with the ability of wolf form. Seeing him like this, he has been on the ship for a while. Aizen looked at him with a hint of deep meaning in his eyes. Perhaps because of the ability of the zone fruit, at that moment just now, the hairs on Jabra's body stood on end, and his whole body felt like he had fallen into an ice cave. He deeply felt that the source of that gaze was the Marine Vice Admiral in front of him. It's just Aizen's relationship with celestial dragons that makes him dare not think too much. I can only nervously state the purpose of this trip. Master Vice Admiral, under the orders of the officers of the Upper Department CP0, I have this delivered to you. As he spoke, he bent down, and respectfully took out a document and handed it up. His expression was tense, and the sweat on his head dripped onto the deck. He knew that he might have accidentally discovered some terrible secret, and if he didn't handle it well, he might not be able to leave alive. He found the warship one day in advance, and he had already discovered the abnormality of the people on board. I also discovered the fact that Aizen is not on the ship, but the people here don't seem to know it. When he asked about Aizen, Marine on the ship would always say in the direction of the clearing. Master Vice Admiral is right there. Such an answer always makes Jabra feel creepy. But in the absence of clues and the task must be completed, he can only sit back and wait. Compared to his anxiety at the moment, Aizen couldn't help smiling after opening the file. There is also a photo attached to that document. In the photo, there is an iconic crescent-shaped Whitebeard, holding a huge naginata in his hand. It was Edward Weeble who called himself Whitebeard too. The follow-up content of the document contains all the activities of Weeble in the past 6 months, including accurate information on where he is currently. It's about time, Aizen said softly. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Jabra, who had been lowering his head over there, heard him say this, and thought he had discovered the secret of Vice Admiral, and it was time to kill him. The whole person became more tense, and the muscles of the whole body were tense. It's just that his worry is unnecessary. This information is an order given to CP0 by Aizen controlling the Roswald family to collect them in New World. He also clearly pointed out that the person from CP9 will submit it to him on his behalf. Is it Jabra? Yes. Aizen's voice is very gentle, and Jabra's answer is also clean. Jabra, who was nervous at the moment, didn't even bother to ask how Aizen knew his name. Want to see my knife? What? At this moment, the hairs on Jabra's whole body stood on end, and he retreated quickly to distance himself from Aizen. Master Vice Admiral, what does this mean? He asked nervously, but his hands had already grown thick hair, and then turned into a pair of wolf claws. Obviously, they are ready to fight back. But under his vigilant eyes, Aizen still had a smile on his face, and slowly pulled out the saber from his waist. Don't be nervous, if I want to do it. Distance will not be an obstacle to killing you, and neither will all the means you have. I just simply want to ask you to reward the knife. Knife reward. As the spy personnel of the world government, Jabra not only possesses corresponding force, but also possesses knowledge and skills in various fields, in order to facilitate their infiltration to perform various tasks. Naturally, rewarding knives are also among them. Could it be that Vice Admiral has just acquired a famous knife and wants to invite him, a professional, to appreciate it? After much deliberation, it seemed that this was the only possibility. A Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters, especially a Vice Admiral who has a very good relationship with Tianlong. There is no need to target him at all, and it doesn't take much effort to kill him. So, he really just wanted to reward the knife himself. So he put down his vigilance, his hand slowly changed back to human form, and his eyes looked at the blade in Aizen's hand. Just at this moment, he seemed to hear, shatter. Kyoka Suigetsu. Vaguely. Like an illusion, he looked up at Aizen and found nothing unusual. My heart is relieved. After examining it carefully, he said enviously, Master Vice Admiral, this knife of yours has already reached the level of the 21-handed Dakue knife. It's just how it compares to the Supreme Sword. I really don't like to judge it. After all, I'm not qualified to touch that kind of top-notch sword. Aizen nodded slightly after hearing this. It seems that he is very satisfied with his evaluation. Really? That's good. Seeing that he seemed quite satisfied, Jabra took his leave and left. In time, Aizen offered to send him to a nearby island, but he also refused, and said that he had recently practiced the moonwalk in the 6th style of penance. With his ability, he can reach the surrounding islands by moonwalk. Aizen couldn't help chuckling after he was gone. The hinted seeds have been planted, so what kind of flowers will bloom when they germinate? He thought so, and looked forward to Jabra's performance. Then he ordered towards the control room of the warship. Return to Naval Headquarters immediately. Chapter 40 Perseverance. It is useless in the face of absolute power. Advertise here. After leaving Sky Island, Luffy continued his travels. During this time, they encountered the Fokker West Blue pirate group that swallowed up other pirate groups by means of various game competitions. After a round of adventure and fighting, they returned to Long Chain Island. After experiencing this nonsense battle, everyone was very happy. Even Robin, who had been taciturn since returning from Sky Island, was in a much better mood. Looking at Luffy, Chopper and others who were playing tricks, they can't help but smile. It's just this feeling that broke down again when I met Aokiji, who had parted with Aizen not long ago. Quick, run. Robin's pupils shrank slightly, and he said in a trembling voice. Robin. Luffy noticed her strangeness, which was a completely different fear from the time when she saw Aizen before. Look towards where her eyes are looking. Who is it that makes his partner so uneasy? Another nasty marine. Hey, why do you marines always bully Robin? Luffy glared at Aokiji, angrily trying to walk towards him. Just after taking 2 steps, she was held tightly by Robin, and she said with a sad face, you don't know the horror of this man, you won't be his opponent. See you again, Nico Robin. Aokiji looked at Robin and greeted him like an old friend saying goodbye. After the initial fear, Robin said calmly, are you finally coming to catch me? Her expression was as emotionless as stagnant water, as if she had accepted this bad fate. I'll go with you, you let them go. They're just stupid pirates who were tricked by me. Seeing her like this, Luffy shouted, we will not give up our partners. Behind him, Zoro and Sanji also put on a fighting posture with firm eyes. Aokiji glanced at them, then looked at Robin. Although he has been paying attention to her in private all these years, it is through various newspapers and so on. It was the first time to meet formally since the Ohara incident that year. Seeing her trying to protect the Straw Hat crew in such a clumsy way, he knew she had found the partner she had been waiting for. Only, what kind of quality these partners are, he still needs to personally test it. Ah la la, you really found a group of stupid partners. Aokiji's words were sarcasm. It seems to be laughing at Luffy and others, but it is just a group of unknown people who want to attack him. This made Luffy and others very dissatisfied. Some time ago, I was beaten by Aizen so much that I couldn't hold my head up, and I was holding my breath. Now there is another marine, who still has such a superior attitude, of course they are not convinced. Just when they were about to rush up, Robin called them back. He is one of the 3 most powerful admirals in Marine. His strength is even stronger than Aizen. Don't come here to die. Marine Admiral, stronger than Aizen. Everyone who was eager to try was startled. They have personally experienced the horror of Aizen, the speed that is difficult to distinguish with the naked eye, the means of resisting swords with bare hands, and various strange abilities. So powerful, even a force that keeps them out of reach. How could he not be stronger than the person in front of him? And just when they were shocked by it, Aokiji who was standing opposite was also taken aback. According to their tone, have you seen Aizen, and when? Aizen had just parted with him not long ago, that was before this. Combined with Robin's escape after Crocodile was caught, plus the driving route from Alabasta to here. Ah, have you met Brother Aizen in Magic Valley Town? You were really lucky to survive under his hands. Hearing Aokiji's words, everyone looked slightly strange. They know what Aokiji said is wrong, but they won't correct it. Just when Aizen was mentioned, Robin, who was already ready to die, asked unwillingly, tell me, why did he join Marine? Aokiji scratched his head in distress, didn't he tell you? The gentle brother Aizen is really unexpectedly cruel to you. Gentle. Straw Hat crew thinks of Aizen's performance in the Arc Proverbs, and the words he said, it can't be seen that they are gentle. Not to mention that he actually sent his own adjutant in an attempt to conquer Sky Island. If it weren't for the Captain Luffy, out of trust in Uda, he agreed. They will not give up so easily. Unlike what Luffy, Zoro and others were concerned about, Robin fell silent after hearing Aokiji's answer. Gentle Aizen. It's been a long time since I've heard such a statement. When he was in Ohara that year, Aizen was such a gentle person who gave Robin a lot of care when he was a child. It's just that when we saw each other again, he had already changed into someone she didn't know. Now I heard the word from Aokiji's mouth again. I had mixed feelings for a while. Seeing her fall into silence, Aokiji scratched his head, but he thought in his heart, did I say something unnecessary? Did I cause trouble to Brother Aizen? Until now, he can also see that Aizen has his own considerations in dealing with Robin's problem. Now that he, an outsider, gets too involved in the relationship between the two of them, it's really redundant. It might even backfire and add to Aizen's plans. Thinking of this, Aokiji also decided to act as soon as possible, not giving Robin a chance to think too much. Okay, now I give you a choice, let me take Nico Robin, I can let you go safely. Otherwise. Aokiji's hand released a terrifying chill, and the threat was clearly revealed. But before he finished speaking, Luffy refused with a loud voice, we will not abandon our partners. Behind him, the other crew members also had firm eyes, acquiescing to the captain's words. Seeing this, Aokiji no longer held back. The fruit ability was activated, and the bone-piercing chill was released instantly, freezing all the surrounding grasslands for tens of miles. In an instant, the original green grass turned into an ice field. Before Luffy could surprise them, Aokiji raised his palm to them. It's too late to repent now, Straw Hat Boy. Ice Ball. Following the execution of the move, 5 icicles shot out from the palm, attacking everyone. In just a few face-to-face meetings, Straw Hat crew has all been defeated and frozen into ice sculptures. Although they are very hard, very desperate. But in the face of absolute power, perseverance is useless. Seeing their horror, Robin couldn't help but burst into tears. Sure enough, am I a person who only brings misfortune? Aokiji approached step by step, Robin closed his eyes resignedly. I don't know if it was because of her desperate appearance that moved Aokiji to feel compassion again, and he actually said such a sentence in Robin's ear. The sky is actually colorless. It doesn't deceive you, it's just your own eyes that deceive you. This is what he once said to me, and now I take it as your last words. For you. Chapter 41 Ace's defeat, Lafitte's thanks. Advertise here. Aokiji's purpose is not to capture Robin. Instead, she wanted to make sure that the Straw Hat crew was the reliable partner she had been looking for. After seeing that Luffy and others were seriously injured, they still chose to protect Robin. When Robin is also willing to sacrifice himself to save them, Aokiji knows. The little girl back then finally found her home. Knowing this, he began to find excuses. So that I have a legitimate excuse to let this group of people go. Speaking of which, I still owe you a favor. Aokiji said to Luffy, who was seriously injured. At this time, Luffy had already been half frozen, and the whole person was pinned to the ground and could not break free. Who wants your favor? He opened his mouth to let out a mouthful of white breath, and spoke with difficulty, showing no appreciation at all. The marine in front of him has frozen his crew into ice cubes, and now he is saying strange things here. Aokiji also became troubled when he heard this. These companions of yours are just frozen, but they haven't died yet, but it may not be necessarily later. Really? At such a critical moment, Luffy showed a happy look after hearing this. Is this guy still not aware of the seriousness of the problem? I am going to kill you. Looking at the stunned young man on the ground with contempt, he said silently, as expected of Mr. Garp's grandson. But he still asked, aren't you afraid of death? Luffy looked up at him. It doesn't matter if I die, it doesn't matter if I die for my dream or to protect my companions. As he spoke, he burst out of power out of nowhere, shattering the ice that had frozen half of his body. Drenched in blood, he stood up again. Luffy's words surprised Aokiji, but at the same time felt it should be so. Just when Luffy was about to attack again, Aokiji had no intention of continuing to fight. He just threw Robin to him and said, forget it, you are still too weak now, I want to kill you easily, but since you attacked Crocodile when you were in Alabasta, I will spare your lives today. It's your reward for smashing his ambition and maintaining Marine's dignity. Then he left. Luffy didn't get entangled with seeing this, but moved the injured people back to the ship with Nami, who didn't participate in the battle. After leaving, Aokiji looked at the sun in the sky and sighed slightly. It took so long again, I hope that Ace will stay where it is. As soon as he was about to ride away, he heard the phone bug in his arms ringing, making a porp sound all the time. Looking at the image of the round black framed toad mirror suddenly appearing above, you don't need to think too much to know that it belongs to Marshal Sengoku. Hey Marshal, I haven't found Ace yet. Aokiji's voice was lazy, and he didn't mention anything about fishing and doing private work during his assignment. Sengoku on the opposite side of the phone bug obviously didn't care about these things, and said eagerly, how far are you from South Snort Island now? The indifference of strategizing in the past is completely gone. Hearing this address, Aokiji frowned instinctively. His next stop is there, and the information he got from Aizen is that Ace is also there. Could it be that something happened on South Snort Island? Without waiting for Aokiji to ask, Sengoku on the other end of the phone bug couldn't wait. Now, go to South Snort Island as fast as you can, make a deal with Blackbeard, and then personally escort Whitebeard pirates, Captain Potter Cassidy, Ace of the 2nd Division, to Impel Down. Other tasks will be postponed, and they must be taken into custody as soon as possible. After speaking, he hung up the phone, and didn't even give Aokiji a chance to ask. Aokiji looked at the busy phone bug in his hand, and couldn't help frowning and thinking. From the occasional echoes of footsteps, Marshal Sengoku was walking in an open space as quickly as possible without losing manners. To make him behave like this, Aokiji only thought of one possibility after thinking about it. 5 elders. What kind of thing is it that Marshal Sengoku went to meet the 5 elders in person? Can this Ace have such energy? No way. That must have something to do with Whitebeard. Aokiji felt a headache again at the thought. Originally, he just accepted a mission that was dispatched in the first half of the year, and planned to take this opportunity to go on vacation. I didn't expect so many things to come together, and they were all such troublesome things. What bad luck. Well, if it gets to the 5 elders, there's no delay. That's what he said. Then he plugged the phone bug back, whistled and rode on his bicycle, and headed slowly towards South Snot Island. On the other hand, Aizen also received a letter from Lafitte on his way back to the headquarters. Lord Aizen, we have subdued Fire Fist Ace now, and we have notified Marine to send someone to take over. Unexpectedly, he is actually the son of One Piece Gordy Luogia, what a news. Quote. Lafitte, who knew the truth, was also shocked by this. At the same time, he also understood why Aizen insisted that he guarantee that Blackbeard would submit Ace to Marine as a nomination certificate. Because only the identity of the son of the One Piece can make Marine make up his mind to capture Fire Fist Ace even if he is an enemy of the Whitebeard pirates. Is your purpose to start a war between Marine and one of the 4 emperors, Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world? Thinking of this, the chaotic and violent aura in his body began to stir restlessly. Surprised the poisonous Q, Badgers and others on the side. Teach thought he knew Ace's identity, and couldn't control the violent desire to torture him. Lafitte, he's still going to be called Marine, but I can't vent to you. When I get the title of Shichibukai, I'll go to the next island to make a fuss with you. After hearing this, Lafitte couldn't help evoking a cruel smile on his scarlet lips. A pair of eyes full of violence stared at Teach intently. Then thank you, Captain. Teach, who was looking at those eyes, couldn't help feeling startled. Recently, he has always felt that Lafitte's strength seems to be much stronger than before, and now it seems that this is indeed the case. The aura exposed by this glance is fundamentally different from before. This made Teach even more happy. Of course, it is a good thing for his subordinates to become stronger. As for the means and character of violence, they are pirates, still care about this. As long as the strength is still under his control, naturally the stronger the better. Thinking of this, he couldn't help laughing. Thief, ha ha ha. Seeing him laughing, Lafitte also laughed. This teach is really an idiot. The object Lousy wants to torture is not this Ace, but you. Lafitte thought this in his heart, and his laughter became louder and louder. The fighting champion badgers next to them saw that they were all laughing, thinking they were celebrating the victory of the battle. He also laughed. Way ha 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 ha. Poison Q and Van Oka are unknown. What are they laughing at? I don't know. Just laugh and it's over. Chapter 42. Sengoku's plan. Goodbye Lafitte. Advertise here. It wasn't just Aokiji who received the news either. Even Aizen, who was still on the way back, received a call from Sengoku, asking him to lead his warships to South Snort Island to support Admiral Aokiji. After hanging up the phone, Sengoku also rushed to the place where the five elders were. Once inside, the five elders' eyes were fixed on him. Sengoku, is everything you said in the phone bug true? Facing five elders' inquiry, Sengoku replied affirmatively. The information provided by Blackbeard teach, coupled with the comparison of the search results of the year, this Ace is most likely the posthumous son left by Luogia after his death. Based on it, after Luogia's death, because he suspected that he still had blood left, the place where he last stayed was searched and arrested. As long as the pregnant women were pregnant at the right time, they were within the scope of the investigation. According to the records of that year, there was a woman whose surname was Potter Cass. Coincidentally, she died after completing the investigation of Luogia's bloodline. Quote. Saying that, Sengoku took out another stack of documents and handed them over. After the five elders took it, they each took a few and exchanged them to look at them. It contains detailed information on Potter Cass D. Rouge, from photos, birth records, biography, etc. In addition, there is also an Ace wanted warrant. After reading these, several people basically confirmed the fact that Ace is the blood of One Piece Luogia. Because this woman named Rouge is really too similar to Ace. Even Madara, who had tits on her face, was passed on to Ace. When the photos of the two are put together, they are almost recognizable to the naked eye. Coupled with many doubts, it makes sense to connect them like this. The old man with the knife put down the documents in his hand, looked up at Sengoku below. What are your plans for this matter? The other five elders also set their sights on Sengoku, wanting to hear what he had to say. Sengoku calmed down the complexity in his heart. He knew that Ace was Garp's grandson, and he had invited him when the seven warlords of the sea system was established, wanting to protect his old friend's family in a disguised form. In his opinion at the time, Ace was nothing more than a mischievous young man who went out in the name of a pirate. Except for eating some overlord meals, he hasn't done any particularly bad things. But now, Ace is Luogia's blood, so the problem is complicated. He Sengoku is different from Garp, there is no so-called friend or foe between him and Luogia. Some just hate each other's madness, and before they die, they don't forget to push the world into chaos and rampage. I don't know how many people have gone to sea to become pirates because of what he said back then. It also forced Marine, who could not support the pressure, to accept the proposal of world government Shichibukai. In his opinion, Luogia's crimes are too serious to die. More importantly, he knew that the five elders would never allow Ace to live. A bit worried about old man Garp, but now that things have gotten to this point, it's just going to have to go on. Since it has been confirmed that Ace is Luogia's bloodline, let's use him to end the mistakes that Luogia put down at that time. One Piece King Luogia, the great pirate era he started with his life will end with his son's blood. Sengoku said firmly. The firmness revealed in his expression, and the courage exuded from his whole body. Even the five elders couldn't help sighing. Such courage, worthy of being the marshal who commands the marine, Sengoku. They praised it like this, but they didn't lose sight of the last point in Sengoku's plan. Just relying on the blood of One Piece is like ending this chaotic era. I'm afraid the Fire Fist Ace is not enough. Speaking of this, under Sengoku's somewhat old-fashioned and funny round-toed mirror, a pair of eyes are sharp. Facing five elders' question, he said word by word, Whitebeard, Edward Newgate. That's why. Five elders can serve as representatives of world power, and their psychic skills are by no means ordinary. The moment he heard that name, he figured out Sengoku's plan. Go and make a detailed plan. Fire Fist Ace will be shut down to impel down first, and we will make a decision after a detailed plan comes out. With the permission of the five elders, Sengoku hastily resigned. Back at Naval Headquarters Marineford, ready to call all the top brass and make plans. Of course, Garp will not be included in these high-level positions. Now is not the time to let the old guy know. On the other side, Aizen also rushed to South Snort Island after receiving orders from Sengoku. When he arrived, Aokiji had been waiting for a long time. At this time, Aokiji was lying on a recliner that he got from nowhere, with a blindfold on his face. Noticing Aizen and the others approach, he raised one corner and revealed one eye. Blackbeard's group is also on the other side not far away, and there is still some distance between Aokiji and Aokiji. Ah, we meet again, brother Aizen. Aizen glanced at Teach and the others over there, then looked at Aokiji who was lying down. Aokiji Admiral, we are really destined. We met again after being separated for less than a day. During the conversation, Aizen teased with a slight smile, and his expression was equally gentle. It's just these words that made Aokiji a little bit overwhelmed. Fate. It's evil fate, right? Having nothing to say, he chose to bypass the topic and leave the content to Blackbeard and others on the other side. They are the Blackbeard pirates who applied to replace Crocodile and wanted to become Shichibukai. Teach and the others over there saw Aokiji pointing at him, and the new Vice Admiral also looked over. Immediately, he let out his trademark laugh. Thief, ha ha ha. This time we captured Fire Fist Ace, Shichibukai should be fine, right? While he was saying this, all the muscles in his body were tense. No matter how meticulous the plan was, sometimes accidents would happen, and he was afraid that Marine would break his promise, so he directly suppressed him. After all, there is a Marine Admiral, a Vice Admiral, and an entire Vice Admiral formation. If Marine really wants to turn his face, there is a high probability that he will suffer. Not only him, but also Lafitte, Badgers and others behind him are all hidden in their aura. It doesn't look like there is any abnormality on the surface, but once it is done, it can be dealt with immediately. But obviously, his worries were unnecessary. Aizen first glanced at them up and down, and then at the pirate ship in the port that looked like a broken raft. There is also a pirate flag with 3 skulls hanging on it. Becoming a Shichibukai still requires the appointment of the world government. This will not work until we bring Ace back. You don't have to worry about us going back on our word. After all, we are Marines, and we are different from you pirates. Aizen's words made no secret of their contempt, but Teach didn't seem to care. On the contrary, he laughed loudly and said, "Thief, ha ha ha. If this is the case, then I can rest assured. Pirates, backlash and betrayal are commonplace, and this is also true. Marine prides himself on being righteous, and it is also a common practice to pull a fig leaf first no matter what he does." So not only did Aizen's words not make him angry, but it made him feel relieved a lot. The force of guard on his body also relaxed. Together with his men. Long time no see, Mr. Lafitte. Unexpectedly, Aizen greeted Lafitte behind Teach. This made Teach, who was the captain, very upset, and turned to look at Lafitte behind him. Lafitte, do you know this Marine Vice Admiral? Oh, Lafitte replied naturally, I saw it once at Mariajoy's Shichibukai meeting. As he spoke, he did not forget to give a slight salute to Aizen. It is really an honor to be remembered by such a big person as Aizen Vice Admiral. P.S. I am very happy to see that my friends have analyzed Uda. Because it was not written in a simple way, so I was worried that everyone would be impatient to read it. It is inconvenient for me to say more about the characters behind the scenes. I can only say that the characters conform to the original character and behavior as much as possible, and how they will go after that will be handled according to my understanding of the characters. I can only guarantee that I will continue to write after it is topped, and I won't be gone after it is topped. Chapter 43 Going Secretly, Brook of the Devil's Delta. Advertise here. Watch Aokiji and Aizen take Ace away on the port. Blackbeard Teach began to figure out the next step. Ace is the son of the One Piece King Luogia, and Marine will not let him go. With the importance Dad attaches to him, the conflict between the Whitebeard pirates and Marine is inevitable. We only need Shichibukai's identity now, and the rest is to wait slowly. After decades of career on the Whitebeard pirates, Teach kept his ambitions hidden and waited for an opportunity. I also know Whitebeard and the various captains very well. Although the father is equally tolerant and loving to his son, there is no doubt that Ace is a special existence. He won't let Marine kill Ace. So before this step, they have to wait for Marine's next plan before they can talk about action. Teach was thinking like this, but Lafitte beside him put his hand on the brim of his hat and said, in this case, why don't we go get a pirate ship now? Always sailing on a raft, not what Shichibukai still look like. His words seemed to remind Teach that it was indeed time to change to a better boat. The Marine Vice Admiral named Aizen looked at them just now. That kind of contempt is really annoying. It's like mocking them for being a bunch of lucky country bumpkins. But it is not easy to want a good ship. Well, I want to get a decent pirate ship. But there is no decent shipyard on this small island. Leave that to me, Captain. As he spoke, Lafitte's arms turned into pure white wings, suspended in midair. Seeing this appearance, Teach didn't know his plan, so he couldn't help laughing and said, ha ha ha, that's really reliable, Lafitte, go and get a luxurious pirate ship back. As you wish, Captain. Lafitte's scarlet lips curled into a weird smile, and then spread his wings and left. Looking at the direction he left, Teach thought for a moment. Is it the capital of Seven Waters? Lafitte is indeed his right-hand man, and he has already thought about it in advance. It's not bad to have such a reliable crew. Thinking to himself, Teach glanced at Poison Q, Badgers and the others behind him, and couldn't help but compare. In the end, I found out that Lafitte is better. After Lafitte flew away, he turned sharply and chased after the Aizen warship. Aizen over there was also well prepared, and when he sensed Lafitte approaching, he called a handy sailor beside him. I need to go out. In case Aokiji Admiral finds out, I need you to replace me for a while. Yes, Master Aizen. The sailor nodded upon hearing the words, and said respectfully. Then he straightened up slowly, and during this process, the temperament on his body also changed greatly. Although it is slightly different from Aizen, it is not far behind. As Aizen watched, he slapped his face with one hand. Call out. The whole face changed into Aizen's appearance in an instant. Not only that, but even the height and body shape became exactly the same as Aizen. Seeing this scene, Aizen let out a chuckle. I looked at it with satisfaction. Then, Feng, I will leave the rest to you. Yes, my lord. This sailor is a member of Baroque Studio, the faction founded by Crocodile. Bentham with clone fruit ability. It was replaced by Kyoka Suigetsu, who was controlled by Aizen during the process of detaining the Crocodile gang. Specifically designed to deal with situations like the present. There are top-level marine executives present, so it is inconvenient to use Kyoka Suigetsu. One Piece world is different from Shinigami after all, here with the observation hockey system. Kyoka Suigetsu's 5-sense control is still not enough for top powerhouses. Hogyoku's advancement should also be accelerated. After Aizen left, Xiaofeng changed into Aizen's spare clothes in the room. Aided by Kyoka Suigetsu, his departure went unnoticed by anyone. After a while, Aizen and Lafitte met on the sea. Participate in adults. Lafitte changed the wings back and knelt in the air on one knee. Alright Lafitte, I've already made arrangements for the pirate ship, so you can stay with me during this time. Yes, my lord. Under Aizen's signal, Lafitte stood up and followed behind him. No objection, let alone more questions. This attitude made Aizen very satisfied. Let's go, our time is precious. After speaking, he took Lafitte and flew out. It only took half an hour to arrive at the destination of their trip. My lord, is this place? Lafitte looked at the sea area shrouded in mist in front of him. It's eerie, with a strong sense of mystery, like a place of death that lures lost travelers into it. This is the rumored terrifying Devil's Delta. It is also one of the Shichibukai, the old lair of Gecko Moria. There are two really interesting guys here that intrigue me. Two very interested guys. Lafitte's heart moved. Could it be that another strong man has won the favor of the adults, and is about to be endowed with that powerful power? Suddenly a sense of crisis rose. Must become stronger as soon as possible. There are more and more strong people around the Lord, and it may become more and more difficult for him to keep the sequence of 2 in the future, and even return to 1. If the sequence gradually becomes lower in the future, then his status in the hearts of adults will gradually decrease. He thought so. Inadvertently noticed that Aizen was squinting at him. The calmness and indifference revealed in those eyes gave Lafitte a feeling that everything is under the control of adults. It's as if what I'm thinking in my heart now is clearly understood. Lafitte, who realized this problem, knelt down. My lord's redemption. I'm very touched that you want to become stronger, but it's still a dormant period. Can you suppress those redundant thoughts? Aizen's tone was beyond doubt. Lafitte also knew that his thoughts were overstepped, and immediately expressed that he would not dare to do it again. Then the two rushed into the mist at an extremely fast speed. It didn't take long for them to feel a strange soul power in this sea area. It seems that our first target has been found. Following the wave of that soul, the two approached. Soon there was a melodious singing of Bink's Wine. It is obviously a happy song, but the loneliness in the voice cannot be expressed. It makes this already gloomy sea area even more weird. Ghost ship. Looking at the broken pirate ship below, Lafitte couldn't help becoming curious. A broken ship exuding soul power floats in this perennially dark sea area, singing from time to time. Is this also the layout of adults? It's terrible. At this time, Brooke, who was playing music alone on the boat and remembering the old man, felt a palpitation in his heart. It seems to be stared at by something terrible. This feeling is like my heart is about to jump out. Ah, I don't have a heart anymore. Yo-ho-ho-ho. He stood up from the piano, wanting to change to another instrument and continue playing just now. As soon as he got up, he saw two figures on the deck outside the door. A skeleton with an explosive head tilted its head and looked at Aizen and the others. At first, I thought it was because I hadn't seen anyone for a long time, so I had an illusion again. But when he felt the terrifying breath from the two people's mountains, like a natural enemy, he knew he wasn't hallucinating. This feeling is Shinigami finally realizing that I am living in the world, and is going to take me to the underworld. As an ability user of the fruit of the underworld, Brooke also has a good ability in the soul. It's just that in front of Aizen and Lafitte, who are Shinigami and Arankar, it's almost like a mouse meets a cat. Both are professionals in dealing with the soul. Shinigami is right, but I have never been to the underworld of this world. Let me use your ability to try this time. Chapter 44 Mr. Moria, please come with me. Advertise here. To the underworld. Brooke looked sideways at the two outside the door. Of course he knew of the existence of Huang Quan, and he had clearly felt Huang Quan's call to his soul when he died physically. He was rejected by Huang Quan just because of the fruit of Huang Quan. Returned to the human world. Now two people with strange soul power suddenly appeared and said that they were going to Huang Quan. How strange. Yo ho 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 ho. Are you two going to Huang Quan? It's not a good place. Brooke didn't realize the seriousness of the problem, nor did he realize the horror of the man in front of him. On the other hand, Aizen looked him up and down, and didn't want to talk to him. just raised his hand and issued a yellow rope-shaped energy body from his fingertips. The 9 of Bakudo, crashing wheel. Unprepared, Brook didn't expect that he would strike directly without even saying hello. The process was so short that he didn't even react. After being restrained by Kido's power, I just felt unable to move my whole body, and even my consciousness began to fade. Looking at the skeleton frame lying on the ground, Lafitte was puzzled. My lord, can he really find Huang Quan? He has some doubts about the existence of Huang Quan, but since Master Aizen said it himself, there must be no fakes. It's just that this person, who can connect with Huang Quan, is a little too weak. Lafitte could feel that, apart from his special soul power, his strength was not strong. Lafitte, I never said he could find Huang Quan, all this is just an attempt. Yes, my lord, I made a slip of the tongue. Lafitte bowed and apologized. Aizen didn't care about that, just walked beside Brook and picked him up. While taking out the Hogyoku, he began to try to use the power of the underworld fruit in Brook. At the same time, he told Lafitte, I'm going to stay here and try to research, you go and catch another guy in this sea area. Ready to serve. Lafitte didn't talk nonsense when he received the order, and quickly rushed towards another strange place he could feel. There is a huge amount of soul power there, the quantity is amazing and the quality is low. It is the existence that he can capture immediately after entering the Devil's Triangle Sea area. After he left, Aizen looked at Brook in front of him with a smile on his lips, then let's get started. Not long after, Lafitte discovered an island shrouded in mist in this sea area. It was only after flying close that it turned out to be a huge pirate ship. Looking at the pirate flag fluttering on the island, Lafitte thought deeply. It's surprising that your target is Gecko Moria, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. There are more and more actors on the stage, and I must not disappoint the adults. Quote. As he spoke, he flew straight towards the island. Draw a white shadow in the sky at an extremely fast speed. Hey, did you see a white one flying over in the sky? You must have read it wrong. The sky here is always black. There is nothing white in the sky. Stop arguing, hurry up and see if my piece is missing. In the horror forest, the 3 animal zombies are chatting together, and they have nothing to do with each other. In the castle in the center of the island, Moria, who was having a dinner party, sensed someone approaching at an extremely fast speed without any cover. Hey, has someone else come to the island without knowing whether to live or die? Beside the round table at the banquet, the pink-haired Perona was full of excitement. Master Moria, do you have any new toys? Hey, he still looks like a pretty good guy. Absalom, the leopard head who was still in high spirits, suddenly lost interest when he heard Moria's words, and muttered, it would be nice if she was a beautiful woman. Hey. Then I'll leave it to you, samurai. Moria activated her ability, in a cemetery outside the castle. A gray-brown withered arm stretched out from the ground, crawled out little by little, and stood up. Exposed teeth, sunken eye sockets. It was the dragon slayer Shimotsuki Ryoma that Moria stole back from Wano-kuni. The moment he received Moria's command, he locked onto Lafitte who was flying. The famous knife, Chu Shui, was out of its sheath in his hand, and he ran towards a wall on the other side of the castle. When it reached the edge of the wall, it jumped up and used its height to kill Lafitte who was coming from a distance. Dawn Song Aurora burst. Lafitte, who was in midair, had noticed his movement early on, but he was unmoved and continued to move forward. When Ryoma's attack was imminent, Lafitte drew out his staff sword, and slashed with a random blow. The move was broken in an instant, and the dragon swordsman Shimotsuki Ryoma also flew backwards. It fell heavily to the ground. Lafitte's speed did not decrease, and he still maintained a high speed. The attack just now didn't affect him as if it never happened. I am empowered by the adults, and I am not someone like you who can stop me. He looked back contemptuously, and then locked his position in the castle. Found Moria et al. Using the dinner party in numerous rooms. Found it. At this time, Moria and the others didn't realize that their battle was over, and they were still chatting about how to deal with the intruder this time. Hobuk. If he's strong enough, we can implant his shadow into Ozzy. Perona said reluctantly. My latest rabbit toy can't talk yet. Absalom expressed a lack of interest. Just when they were having a heated discussion. Boom. A big hole was blown out of the roof of the restaurant, and the unsuspecting people were blown out, one by one clinging to the wall. He looked extremely embarrassed. Who is it? Moria looked at the sky angrily, and saw Lafitte, wearing a top hat and holding a cane, falling on the blown-off wall. A circle of red light surrounded the wrist of the other hand, flickering from time to time. It is one of Aaroncar's signature skills, False Bullet. Although it is not as powerful as Sero, its speed is more than 20 times that of Sero, and it does not take long to charge. Ah. This is Mr. Gecko Moria, right? My lord has invited me, and I hope to honor him. Hearing his attitude of not taking herself seriously, Moria was very angry. Destroyed my castle, and still want me to go with you. Are you underestimating me, bastard? His fangs were clenched and his eyes glared at Lafitte. And Lafitte is not in vain, he is now confident that he can beat the 7 warlords of the sea. Gecko Moria, my lord only said that I will take you there, but I didn't say that I must live. His eyes became more and more dangerous, and he looked violently at Moria and the cadres behind him. When he saw Perona, he couldn't help showing a wicked smile. Woman, it's really rude to play tricks while I'm talking to your captain. Perona, who was quietly controlling the negative ghost to approach the past, panicked on the spot. Such a secret has been discovered. However, what happened below was beyond her cognition. The whole person was stunned in shock, and she sat down trembling all over. I saw that Lafitte actually grabbed the unwilling negative ghost around him with his bare hands, and swallowed it into his mouth under the eyes of everyone. Just little by little, I ate it like smoking jelly. Ah, the taste is not bad, thank you for the hospitality. Lafitte caressed the brim of his hat as if nothing had happened, and kept spinning the crutch in his hand. The look at Perona also became more and more aggressive. Realizing this, Moria's heart tightened suddenly, and she blocked Perona behind her. Asshole, if you want me to go with you, show your strength. Shadow box. With a loud shout, his whole body turned into the appearance of a bat, attacking Lafitte, quickly enveloping him. When his figure reappeared, Lafitte had already been locked into a black box. Ace Abram, Perona will be handed over to you, take her away first. Moria knew that the shadow box would not be able to trap the other party for long, so she hurriedly urged them to leave. From the situation just now, he judged that Lafitte had great restraint on Perona's power, and he himself was also attracted by Perona's ability. Perona is likely to be in danger if he stays on. I won't go, Lord Moria, I will stay and help you. Seeing this, Perona didn't want to. She was picked up by Moria since she was a child, and she has long respected and loved him as her father. Now she is absolutely unwilling to leave Lord Moria and run away. While the two were chatting, Lafitte's regretful and strange voice came out of the shadow box. It was a touching scene. I didn't expect Mr. Moria, who is one of the Shichibukai, to have such a side. It was really touching. The dark purple Reiatsu burst out suddenly, breaking through the shadow box in an instant. Lafitte's figure appeared again. If you don't want to go, then you might as well stay together. Chapter 45. Moria attracted by Arankar. Advertise here. If you don't want to go, then you might as well stay together. Moria looked at Lafitte on the wall and realized that the opponent was powerful. It is an opponent that needs to be faced squarely. Don't get too carried away, bastard. Shadow Mage. Before the words fell, the shadow under Moria's feet began to twist, and a black shadow jumped out of it not long after, forming a dark purple cut shadow clone with the same appearance as him in an instant. And this new avatar also attracted Lafitte's attention. There are some fluctuations of the soul of the body, but it is specious. Does the shadow still have such a secret? It seems that I know why my lord wants me to arrest you. Stop talking nonsense, want to catch me. Win first and then talk. How could Moria not be angry about Lafitte's rudeness? That condescension seems to have settled his attitude. He took out a pair of scissors from the shadow, and there was another pair of scissors in the shadow mage's hand behind him. Then the shadow mage avatar rushed towards Lafitte, and the Moria body hiding behind was a long-range support. When the avatar swung the scissors towards Lafitte, Lafitte just turned the crutch in his hand, blocking the blow with the bottom. The whole process was relaxed and freehand, and even the sword was not drawn out of its sheath. And while he blocked the blow, Moria itself was not idle. Shadow horn gun. In the shadow under the corner of the wall, a spear pierced out, pointing directly at Lafitte's chest. Bah! The chest was pierced by the shadow horn gun, and Lafitte had an unbelievable expression on his face. He looked down at the position on his chest, his eyes full of disbelief. There is even a trace of bloodline flowing from the corner of the mouth. No. Impossible. Hehehehe. Moria was overjoyed when she saw this, thinking that she had succeeded in one blow. Boy, this is the end of offending my uncle. I will cut out your shadow and put it on the lowest zombie, and dissect the corpse to make a specimen. Master Moria is really amazing. Sure enough, the master is the strongest. Perona, Asabram and others in the rear were also overjoyed. He never expected that this seemingly strong guy would be so useless, and he spoke so fiercely that he was defeated by Master Moria in just one round. The joy of his subordinates made Moria very happy, and he waved his hand. Let me cut out his shadow first, otherwise it will be useless if he dies. While controlling the shadow mage's avatar, he was about to cut the shadow with scissors, while saying, such a guy dares to underestimate the enemy in front of me, Moria, and death is a matter of course. While he was talking, he saw Lafitte, who had stopped moving just now, slowly raised his head, showing a strange smile. With the bloodline on the upper corner of the mouth, it looks even more enchanting. Of course it's fake, he said softly, and with a flick of his fingers, the shadow mage's scissors were separated. What? Moria was surprised when she saw this, for someone with a chest pierced could still act like nothing happened. Could it be a special fruit ability user? But judging from his previous attack, it doesn't look like it. Not only him, but even the people behind him couldn't believe it. Except for Moria, at the level of other people, they still can't get in touch with top powerhouses. In their eyes, ordinary human beings who have been pierced through their bodies are mortal existences. Especially the ship Dr. Hoback. At this moment he looked at Lafitte's body as if he was looking at the most precious treasure in the world. This body. I really want to dissect it and study it. ... Don't look at me like that. Lafitte wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth, and looked at the people below calmly. It seems that my acting skills are not bad. I think I can act in a script for a good adult. As he spoke, he raised the bloodline in his palm. I did this on purpose. Why? Moria looked at him with a frown. Lafitte thought for a moment, and couldn't help recalling what Master Aizen told him when he was parting. At the right time, you can show your unique side of the body. I believe this will make that person interested in you. Are you showing your body? Lafitte generously tore off his shirt, revealing his naked upper body. Because you never hurt me from the beginning to the end. Hollow chest, pale skin, and the hardness to deflect the shadow cut attack with only nails. Moria's eyes turned from shock at the beginning to frenzy, and her whole body became extremely excited. That's what he's been looking for. What the strongest zombie should look like. Huh. Sensing Moria's strange gaze, Lafitte couldn't help being puzzled. But think about those zombies Luffy saw just now. I probably understand. Mr. Moria, please take back your impolite gaze, otherwise I won't be able to promise to bring you back safely. Lafitte took off the top hat on his head, revealing half of the mask on his forehead. The stick and sword are out of the sheath. Chapter 46 Return to the Blade. Angel of Bliss. Advertise here. Then see if you have any skills. Faced with Lafitte's threat, Moria became tough, Shadow Warrior. As he said that, under the watchful eyes of Perona and others, he and the Shadow Mage instantly switched positions and appeared beside Lafitte. Lafitte raised his hand to resist, but he didn't realize that Moria's shadow had circled behind him. Released Shadow Revolution at the moment of his block. In the sharp shadow, Moria's main body arm and the shadows have actually been swapped. Clang. The imagined damage did not appear. Moria looked at her restored hand strangely, feeling the touch just now. What the hell are you? There was a hint of excitement in the voice of doubt. His skin was as hard as steel, and even his own attacks could be resisted by his body. Perfect. It's just perfect. While excited, Lafitte's performance also made him think of someone. The man who destroyed everything for him, Kaido. That man also has an amazing physique. Is the monster in front of him a special existence, or is it like him, some kind of unknown phantom beast? No matter what today, let him stay. Stand up, my army of zombies. A low growl came from under Moria's round body, and it spread across the entire island in an instant. In every corner of the island, animals, plants, human bodies, all kinds of zombies emerged and rushed towards this side. The bone-knocking sound made by the skeleton warrior walking, the roar of the zombie, and the voice of the zombie talking in the forest. Kill, kill. From the rustling at the beginning, it gradually turned into a sea of corpses roaring. Lafitte, who was in midair, couldn't help but feel amused when he heard these distant voices. Then he looked at the proud Moria with a mocking look. No wonder you are the oldest Shichibukai, but now you are the weakest. To actually try to rely on these things to defeat me is really putting the cart before the horse. After finishing speaking, Lafitte didn't care how ugly Moria's face was. I saw him raise his left hand and turn it into a claw, aiming at the zombie army that was coming like a tide. Now let you see how powerful the power my lord has given me is. After saying that, Reiatsu erupted all over the body, and an energy ball in the center of the claw burst out a dazzling dark purple light. Feeling the power of it, Moria was terrified. What a terrible power. And, so much alike, even this trick. When that man turned into a green dragon back then, he emitted heat. Although the colors are different and there is a big gap in the power, this move is really too similar. In a trance, he seemed to have returned to the battlefield of that year. The battlefield where he lost everything. Stop. Moria stepped forward and was about to stop. And his move greatly exceeded the expectations of Asabram and Perona. That Moria-sama, who always speaks badly to her companions, unexpectedly has such a side. Later, they joined Moria's command, as if they were meeting their captain for the first time. Lord Moria, owner. ... Under Moria's ferocious glare, Lafitte chuckled lightly. Scarlet lips slowly spit out a sentence. Wang Shu's flash. In an instant, energy shot out from his hand. Across the dusky sky, illuminating the entire island where the thriller bark is located. Do not. Moria roared hoarsely, but it didn't help. As he watched, Lafitte's Sero shot into the corpses, causing a terrifying explosion. And with Lafitte waving his hand, Sero's rays continued, sweeping across the entire zombie army. Under the light of the fire soaring into the sky, even the occasional few surviving zombies died of fear of the flames. While the body was being destroyed, those shadows imprisoned in it flew out in the sea of flames. Thousands of shadows float in the air, like ghosts all over the sky. Seeing the zombie army that she worked so hard to accumulate destroyed, Moria's eyes were extremely bleak. Die, die, I must want you to die. Ah, Kaido. ... Question mark. Moria's rant makes Lafitte wonder. Did he call the wrong person? What's the matter with Kaido? Shadow gathering place. Moria's eyes were tearing apart, and she looked up to the sky and screamed. The fleeing shadow hadn't gone far, and was controlled by it again, flying towards Moria. Oh, it seems that Mr. Moria is really angry, so I can't neglect it. Lafitte said it easily, but the solemnity in his eyes did not retreat in the slightest, but became more vigilant. He could feel that as more and more shadows of Moria merged, its power was also continuously stacked. Individuals with these powers are not in his eyes, but they can be gathered together. Are Moria, the Shichibukai's body, it would be terrible. It seems that I can't hide it privately anymore. Ever since I got this power, I haven't had a chance to try it. Let's start it with your Shichibukai. Lafitte held the sword in one hand and caressed the blade with the other. The whole body Reiatsu continues to condense and elevate until it reaches a certain critical point. Return to the blade. Cry low. Angel of Bliss. Chapter 47 Bliss Hell. Powerless Moria. Advertise here. As the momentum of both sides in the battle continued to increase, the subordinates who were watching could no longer persist in staying any longer. Asabram took this opportunity to take Perona and Hogubik with him, and the three quickly evacuated. Perona kept making noises on the road. Perona. No, I want to stay and help Lord Moria. Asabram. The master's strength and the battle with that guy are beyond our control. We can only leave. Perona. Then you take my body away, I'm a ghost and they can't FK me. Hogback. Your ghost has no effect on that guy at all, have you forgotten? It's Lord Moria's order to leave here, let's go quickly. After the few of them left, in the dark purple Reiatsu's package, Lafitte finally showed his posture of returning to the blade. On the top of the head is a hat that looks like a bird's skull, with long feathers trailing behind it, the pointed beak is slightly to the right, and a pair of small wings protrude from the elbows. The nails on both hands turned into slender and sharp purple claws, the lower body completely turned into long bird-like legs, and the soles of the feet turned into falcon-like claws. There is also a circle of red thread marks around the eyes, and even the lips have turned dark purple. Ah, is this what I look like after returning to the blade? It's so wonderful. Feeling the surging power in his body, Lafitte couldn't help groaning. He didn't care about the appearance of the blade, but this power made him intoxicated. At this time, he cast his eyes on Moria, who was not far away, which was constantly expanding, and couldn't help frowning, showing a disgusted expression. He could feel Moria's strength growing. But that was an extremely rough way to superimpose the original power of the masters of those shadows on himself. Simply increased strength, without any essential changes. It even made the body huge, looking like a living target. It's really a rough method, far less elegant than the power bestowed by adults. Just when his voice fell, Moria finally stopped devouring. At this time, he was almost insane. He who could only devour 1,000 shadows at most, actually devoured 1,500 in this unconscious situation. A full half more than when he was awake. Dead. At this moment Moria has lost consciousness, like a beast that preys on anyone. These roars seemed to be venting the anger that had been suppressed for a long time, echoing throughout the island. Seeing this, Lafitte smiled contemptuously, flapping the wings at his elbows lightly, and his body also reached the same height as Moria. Teach also targeted you before, killing you first to replace you. It seems that the Straw Hat Boy really saved you. Lafitte made no secret of his contempt for Moria. Obviously has a powerful fruit ability, but uses it so savagely. With his current performance, he is completely unworthy of this shadowy fruit. Bliss Hell. Behind Lafitte, the feathers spread slowly on his back, like a peacock spreading its tail. The circular patterns on it are like Aizen Uzumaki, and they are arranged in an orderly manner. With the infusion of Reiatsu, a dark purple light flickered from above towards Moria. But in front of the huge Moria, Lafitte at this moment is more like a moth that exudes eye-catching brilliance. Roar. A huge fist hit Lafitte, but he did not rush. When all eyes were locked on Moria's body stopped unexpectedly. His fist is dozens of times larger than Lafitte's entire body. It stopped less than half a meter away from Lafitte. But even so, the fierce fist wind still blew past Lafitte without stopping, smashing the castle behind him. What a chaotic consciousness. Then let me see what you are angry about. Then he closed his eyes, making the red eye-like thread around the eyes emit a strange red light. A picture after another also appeared in his mind. Wanokuni, Moria, Kaido, Perona and the others, who were still watching them secretly from a distance, saw that neither of them moved. He muttered softly, "Do you want to make a sneak attack now?" No, that person's strength is too strong, and now it's completely impossible to see who has the upper hand, Lord Moria or him. Why don't you prepare to retreat first, and let me guard here? If something goes wrong, I'll take Mrs. Moria with me and leave as soon as possible. Quote. Asabram was unexpectedly loyal, and he didn't forget to go to Moria at critical moments. It's just that his little calculations are obviously useless. The bird bone above Lafitte's head has already looked in their direction. When the empty eye movement emitted a glimmer of light, the consciousness of the few of them gradually became blurred. Lord Moria. Before the consciousness dissipated, Perona muttered softly. Then their consciousness came to a battlefield, where they saw Moria as a young man, and saw a different Moria. Welcome everyone, this is the hell deep in Moria's memory. Chapter 48. Moria surrenders. Advertise here. In this dream, Moria repeatedly experienced the darkest moments of her life countless times. That showdown with Kaido. His subordinates died tragically, and then he was defeated. Repeatedly watching the former crew leave one by one. Howling, pain, and finally nothing. Lord Moria. Perona and others also saw Moria, whom they had never seen before, in this illusion. Loving a partner, grieving the loss. 100 times, 1,000 times. Every time, no matter how he rescued or retained him, it ended in failure. The crew members who had laughed together still left him one by one. Gradually, Moria went from anger, despair to ashes. Enough of everything. The pain that was once buried deep in Moria's heart was torn apart bloody, without reservation. In the illusion, he knelt on the ground and gave up resistance. The three of Perona saw everything from the perspective of bystanders, and they wanted to join in, but there was nothing they could do. Let Moria watch the three of them die together. ... And outside the illusion, Lafitte touched the wings on his elbow, with a little regret in his voice. I still have a lot of abilities that are useless, but since you have given up resisting, come with me. In front of him, the exhausted Moria had returned to her original size. The shadows in his body also escaped from his body and returned to their original owners. Lafitte paced up to Moria, the sharp points of his nails piercing the skin on his forehead. Blood flowed from Moria's forehead, and his consciousness was finally freed from the illusion dominated by Lafitte. The moment she opened her eyes, Moria realized what was going on. You bastard. He was physically and mentally exhausted, and he passed out before he had time to curse. Looking at the ruins surrounded by fire, and the people who passed out. Lafitte touched returning blade in disappointment, and returned to its original appearance. Is this the end? It's surprisingly easy. He bumped Moria's fat body on the ground with his foot, shaking his head slightly. In Moria's memory, he clearly witnessed the whole process of that battle. Therefore, there are more different views on the weakest Shichibukai. It's really hard to imagine that someone who was once able to stand up to monsters like the Four Emperors is now reduced to this level. Let's take you back first, sir, you can't keep him waiting for too long. Speaking of which, Lafitte grabbed Moria's collar and flew towards the direction of the ghost ship. They ignored Perona who was unconscious on the ground. On the other hand, Aizen used the power of Hogyoku to constantly stimulate the ability of the yellow spring fruit in Brook. I want to find out how this world leads to the underworld. But after repeated exploration and experimentation, he found that the underworld of this world is not connected with the human world, and Brook's existence only borrowed a little bit of power from the fruit's ability. What a disappointment. Aizen retracted Hogyoku from Brook, regretfully. However, it is not completely without gains. Just when Hogyoku started again, he obviously felt that the soul power accumulated in Hogyoku had been greatly improved. The transformation is getting closer and closer. At this time, there was a sound of breaking through the air in the distance. It was Lafitte's Reiatsu. Aizen turned and walked to the deck, without taking another look at Brook on the ground. Things that lose their value don't need to be paid attention to. My lord, your excellency Moria has been invited. After landing, Lafitte tossed Moria aside. Although the clothes on his body had disappeared, leaving only a pair of trousers, he still did not forget to take off his top hat gracefully, and bowed to Aizen. Then, under Aizen's gesture, Moria was woken up. Mr. Moria, this is not a good time to sleep as a guest. Asshole. Moria clutched her kicked chest in pain, and looked at Lafitte in front of her with resentful eyes. But soon he discovered that there were other people beside him. Turning around, it was actually a Marine. Most importantly, he also knew this Marine. Vice Admiral Aizen Sōsuke, a student of Sengoku. Is the world government finally going after Shichibukai? The identity of Aizen, combined with another Shichibukai who was banned in front 10 time. Moria felt as if she had guessed the truth. But apparently Aizen didn't intend to answer the conversation, instead he looked at Lafitte. Lafitte, you have really done too much to our guests. Sorry my lord, Mr. Moria won't mind coming for your sake on a whim. Lafitte bowed his head and said. The conversation between the two made Moria so angry that she ignored the blood gushing from her mouth. Angrily scolded. You have destroyed the zombie army I have accumulated for many years, and you actually said it was a whim. Moria's anger was palpable. If he could, he wished he could turn the two guys in front of him into the cheapest zombies right now, and vent his anger. It's just that now that he is seriously injured, no matter how angry he is, it won't help. However, just as he was about to make an appointment, Aizen's words made his ashes-like heart beat again. Do you want power? The power to defeat the enemy, the power to keep your friends. Partner. When the word struck Moria's ears so vividly, he fell silent. The once cherished partners all died in that war, and now he spends years collecting the zombie army, and it is just a dead person who will not be lost again. But they also disappeared one by one when they were fighting against the Birdman next to them. He lost everything again. Now that he has no partners, what else does he need strength for? At this time, Lafitte beside him seemed to have sensed his inner thoughts, twirling the crutch in his hand and said, yes. Those few of your men are still alive. Alive. Perona, are they still alive? He was in a coma at the time and didn't know the final result, he just thought that the few of them had been dealt with smoothly. Didn't expect to be alive. For a moment, the joy of regaining what was lost welled up in my heart. Moria, stand by my side, and I will give you great power. Aizen threw out an olive branch again. Moria pondered for a moment after hearing this, and finally nodded heavily. I promise you, but I have one condition. As he said that, He looked at Lafitte with fierce eyes, showing murderous intent. Chapter 49 The Death of Spandam. Advertise here. Received the transformation of Hogyoku. Moria's image has changed drastically from before. The round and fat figure became solid, just like the appearance before the decisive battle with Kaido. The two sharp horns on the forehead turned into half a bone mask. Moria clenched her fists, feeling her own strength, showing satisfaction. Then saluted Aizen. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, you'll be your own from now on. Aizen nodded, and then looked at Lafitte beside him. Thank you, Lafitte. It is an honor to be able to serve the adults. At this moment, Lafitte's body was covered with bloodline, and even one of his arms was broken. And this is Moria, who has just transformed into Arrancar. With Aizen's acquiescence and Lafitte's willingness, she tortured him severely. Lafitte barely resisted, and he was beaten by Moria until his anger subsided before he stopped. So far, the previous grievances between the two have come to an end. Moria also officially joined the Espada. There is also an extra dark, too, on the left side of his neck. Lafitte's sequence is delayed. My lord, what shall I do next? Now that he joined the camp of Aizen, it is naturally impossible for no reason. Moria is very aware of this, she must have a certain role, so she is favored. Regarding his question, Aizen chuckled and said, all you have to do is stay here and wait for Marine's recruitment. Then there will be a gorgeous performance for you to perform. I see. Perhaps because of the previous torture, Moria's personality has also changed. Become stable and reliable. Just as they were about to leave, Lafitte pointed to Brook in the cabin. Leave him alone. Ah, he is no longer worth studying. Aizen said casually, but the corners of his mouth seemed to think of something interesting, and he couldn't help raising his eyebrows. However, there are some small things left on him, and I hope to bring them back to him in the future. Let's have some fun. So that's the case. That's really exciting. Lafitte showed an expectant expression, and said softly. Moria squinted at him unhappily, snorted coldly and was about to leave. As soon as the footsteps were lifted, Aizen's voice came from his ears. If you encounter Straw Hat Crew in this sea area, don't kill them. The current Moria can be described as an epic enhancement, and it is impossible for Luffy and the others to fight against it. And with Luffy's current accumulation, he could not reach the fruit awakening ability in the state of life and death. Defeat is inevitable. Compared with a green fruit, Aizen also prefers the ripe one. After all, Luffy is also an integral part of the stage. After Moria left, Lafitte's whole body shone with Reiatsu light, and the wounds on his body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the broken hand was reconnected after being retrieved. Master Aizen, if you have nothing else to do, then I will also take my leave. Lafitte remembered that there were still 4 idiots waiting for him to go back on South Snort Island, so he had to leave without delay. Aizen nodded. Go, the boat is ready in the capital of 7 waters. He said with a meaningful smile. It also has a little gift from me for Teach, I hope he likes it. Really? Lafitte showed an exaggerated smile. I believe he will like it, I promise. That would be great. After speaking, the two dispersed and left in different directions. On the other side, Luffy and others, who chased from the capital of 7 waters all the way to Enies' lobby, also launched a duel with CP9. I want to live. Inspired by Luffy and others, Robin finally opened up and said that sentence. Then Straw Hat Crew and Enies' lobby officially declared war. The spy members Lu Chi, Kaku and others have chosen their opponents one after another and started fighting in different venues. Spandam, as the chief, held Robin hostage and walked towards the port in the direction of the Gate of Justice. He tugged at Robin's hair, ignoring her struggles. Back then my father could order you to destroy Ohara, so I can destroy you today. Smelly woman. Be obedient, or I will let you know what will happen to you if you offend me. Because the reformer Frankie burned the Pluton blueprint, Spandam wanted to take back Robin, who knew ancient characters, as credit for his promotion. But with only 9 Dao, he didn't notice at all, there was a pair of eyes staring at him relentlessly. Just as he was humiliating Robin as he walked, the figure flashed out. Yo, where are you going, sir? Who is there? The sudden appearance of a figure startled Spandam. After seeing the appearance of the person, he let out a sigh of relief and felt relieved. Then he immediately showed an angry expression and yelled at Jabra. Why are you here? Straw Hat Crew has already signed up, why don't you hurry up and delay me? In a panic, Spandam actually spoke out his true thoughts. But none of that matters now. He scolded Jabra. Hurry up and stop those lawless gangsters, or I will put you all in impel down and charge you with defection. The identity of the officer made him ignore the gap in strength, and he didn't care about Jabra's cold expression at the moment, it was just an output. Robin, who was captured, discovered this carefully. No, something is wrong with this person. The dull eyes, the hands that gradually turned into animals. This guy is here to kill. Just when she was surprised by her own judgment, Jabra made a violent move, a pair of wolf claws went straight into Spandam's throat, and blood spattered everywhere. Spandam never thought that he would attack him, let alone that he would die here. I can't die yet. Credit is by your side. I'm about to get promoted. He looked at Robin at the side, and reached out to grab her. But he saw a light blue arc flying in front of his eyes, his arm snapped off, the incision fell neatly on the ground, and he rolled down the stairs. Tempest kick. At the last moment when his consciousness dissipated, he recognized what it was just now. Then he fell to the ground. As Robin watched in horror, Jabra reached out and pulled a golden phone bug from Spandam's arms. She is too familiar with this thing. That's what brought Buster Call to Ohara more than 2 decades ago. What do you want to do? In her exclamation, Jabra pressed it without hesitation. Chapter 50 Under Buster Call, CP9 was counted. Advertise here. At the same time Jabra pressed the golden phone bug, Naval Headquarters in Marineford also received the message. Sirens echoed across the island. A large number of sailors in Marineford moved. Outside the Marshal's office, the colonel in charge of the document delivery knocked on Sengoku's door. Report to Marshal. World Government CP9 Chief Spandam has applied for the activation of Buster Call. The target location is Enies lobby. Immediately dispatch 5 vice admirals, including Flying Squirrel and Huo Shaoshan, to lead a fleet of 10 ships. Yes. Just as the Herald was about to go down, Sengoku stopped him. Let those vice admirals submit a detailed investigation report after the mission. Yes. Soon, 5 vice admiral level combat units brought 10 warships and many marine elites to Enies lobby. And the people who were at the Enies lobby at the moment are still in the dark. Spandam, who was killed by Jabra himself, did not have the opportunity to spread the news of Buster Call on the radio like the original trajectory. The battle for Luffy and others continues. But Robin, who saw the whole process here, couldn't sit still. No, I want to inform everyone that if you continue to be here. Robin wanted to escape in a panic, but because of the seastone shackles on her hands, she was weak and couldn't use her strength at all. He could only grit his teeth, and rolled down the stairs cruelly. But Jabra, who was standing there, looked at his hands in a daze, as if he hadn't reacted. What's going on? What's going on? Did I kill Spandam? Shock was written in a pair of sinister triangular eyes. I can't believe that all of this came from his handwriting. Why should I do this? Jabra couldn't figure it out at all. He was hypnosis when he was invited by Aizen to reward the knife. It's just that this kind of hypnosis is not continuous, but will only take effect after certain conditions are triggered. The triggering conditions are, Enies lobby, Straw Hat Crew landing, no other CP9 members present. Its hypnosis effect is already obvious. Kill Spandams. Start Buster Call. When these 2 things are done, hypnosis is over. No, now is not the time to think about these things, you must tell them to leave here quickly. Thinking of this, he immediately turned into an animal and ran towards all his companions who were still fighting. Meanwhile on the other side, Aizen, who had returned to the warship, also sensed that the hypnosis left on Jabra was activated. This year's CP9, which upholds the Dark Justice, will be an excellent knife in the future. Standing on the deck, Aizen couldn't help but smile. Kill the officer and escape under the Buster Call. All of this is enough to make those CP9 people beyond redemption. If nothing else happens, they will never be able to return to the command of the world government, and at the same time they will be wanted by the Marine and hunted down by the world government. Impel Down is getting closer. Beside him, Uda, disguised by Xiao Feng, followed. The real Uda is currently under construction on Sky Island. Enel's original security handling force, by Bailey, also played a great role in this process. Today, Uda walked the streets of Angel Island as usual. Soothed the frightened with her singing. Although the residents of Sky Island are still afraid of Enel, they are also slightly shaken after seeing Enel's respectful attitude towards Uda. Uda is Luffy's sister, there must be no problem, please believe her. Sky Island girl Canis appeals to everyone. Luffy resolved the hundreds of years of enmity between the Sandia people and the Sky Island people, which is worthy of their trust. As Luffy's older sister, Uda deserves their trust as well. Especially when Canis said, "You're not a real god," in front of Enel, without a trace of punishment. Even Enel's expression didn't change a bit. It made them believe it even more. Just when everything was going in a good direction, an extra piece of information appeared in Enel's mind. Go to the island of Pawaboga in the New World, find Whitebeard 2 Edward Webble, and capture him alive. Blockers. Die. It is God's will. During this period of time, he has been obeying Uda's arrangement, and he, who atones for his past viciousness, finally waited for the oracle. He immediately found Uda and told her the news. Uda didn't doubt it after hearing this, she knew that Aizen had been paying attention to Whitebeard 2 for a long time. Since it is Aizen's order, then you go first. Uda said as if he suddenly thought of something. Do you know the way to New World? Enel shook his head. I have never been to Qinghai, but this time the Lord God arranged a guide for me. After the confession, Enel turned into a thunderbolt and disappeared on Sky Island. When it appears again soon. He's over Enies lobby, as the guidance of the gods here.